Welcome, everyone. This is the postponed February 23rd Select Board meeting being held on February 25th, 2026. I'm Mark Howell, Chair of the Select Board. The first item of business that we have tonight is to enter into an executive session. We would be planning to return to open session at 6 p.m. Do I hear a motion?
Sure. Make a motion to enter into executive session under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, Archstone versus HDC, TOC, 651 Lowell Road, and Hannon and all versus MIG Corp, TOC/CMLP, 1175 Elm Street, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining and litigation position of the body.
Is there a second?
Second.
And can I have a roll
So
call?
roll call. Okay, Mr. Bohm.
Aye.
Mr. McKennett.
Aye.
Ms. Hartman.
Yes.
Mr. Howell.
Yes?
Ms. Ravelli, yes.
Okay. So if you're not a member of the Historic Districts Commission, the Select Board, Town Council, or town staff related to those, this is your time to exit the meeting, I think. And the Zoom meeting is probably locked at this point.
Do you want me to just end it? Or you can, yeah.
Are you here to make a public comment?
Yes.
Great. So I'm just going to reopen the meeting. This is the February 25th meeting of the Concord Select Board. As it continues, we're returning from executive session, and we are on to our, I see that everyone is here, and we're on to our public comment period, and I'm going to call on Tanya Galis for up to 3 minutes of public comment, and then we'll come back to the room. Go ahead, Tanya.
Thanks, Mark. I know that you will probably allow public comment later during the group discussions, but I wanted to nevertheless make a comment about some procedural concerns there, in that we found out about some of the recommendations very recently, and they noticed that many of the subcommittee agendas were not specific enough about what properties were to be discussed, or what plans were going to be discussed. So that kind of did not inform the public in advance about what meeting they should attend. This is regardless of the fact that there are minutes and videos afterwards. Another thing I noticed is that the Public Works Subcommittee, there may have been some draft modifications, recommendation modifications that were done outside of a meeting, but through a shared file. Similarly, I recently noticed that in some of the Select Board matters recently, with the IRA proclamation, that the draft that was prepared by Cameron and Kerry was then circulated to the board for edits. And I think the protocol there is that any document prepared that way needs to be posted for the public simultaneously before being, as when it's being distributed to the Select Board. I have expressed also before my wish that maybe the IRA definition or not issue should have gotten more full discussion with the board. And one last thing is that I noticed one resident was commenting about the reading by a young person at your last meeting about Dr. Seuss satire, as showing why the IRA definition is needed. And my reaction to that was that you don't need an IRA definition to see that there are real issues with that, because it was focusing on individual people. And that was disturbing to me. However, that should not for the same reason that should not be necessarily, that kind of expression should not be conflated with.
I'm sorry, Tanya, you froze up.
It's a complex issue and more discussion would have been helpful for the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. AJ? I think you need to unmute.
Yeah, now I can, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. AJ Tornator from Concord. As you know, about 3 weeks ago, the IRA definition of anti-Semitism was adopted. In doing so, the Select Board ignored the following voices and expert opinions. The ACLU Massachusetts, a Harvard constitutional law expert, concerned Jewish faculty and staff, and 100 citizens of Concord and Carlisle who rushed to address the Select Board directly and urged the board to not codify IRA into town policy, and all of these voices were ignored. Even before the Select Board's formal IRA adoption, I myself experienced the chilling effect in the increased emotional and fiduciary costs of the IRA framework as someone who wants to engage the public from a Palestinian perspective. Concord Carlisle for Informed Dialogue, co-founder friend Maureen Hoda, and I did a repeat screening of No Other Land in Concord on December 6th. Soon after we announced the screening, an anonymous member of the public called the police, the Concord police, and complained to Captain Brian Goldman about the film, saying that it's one-sided and it's an anti-Semitic film. The police then made the decision to involve the library director, who ended up calling me at home a week later after I reserved a room in Fowler Library. And on the phone, the director was quite nervous, and she said that she called because a community member who labeled the documentary one-sided and anti-Semitic expressed concern about such a film screening on public property. She then asked us to discuss security concerns with Captain Goldman, who recommended that we hire a police detail, which in the end doubled our cost. I know that some neighbors have said that they cannot imagine how IRA could chill speech in Concord. As it was, inflated claims of anti-Semitism almost shut down our screening, but at the time it was not successful. We did the screening on December 6th. What if the library director had consulted the IRA definition, this is now the town's official definition, and come to the conclusion that this film established double standards for Israel? Now, we're suffering from weaponization of anti-Semitism claims by our authoritarian government, with its demonization of immigrants, Muslims, and dissenting democratic voices already. We did not need our town to also give it their seal of approval, but that's exactly what the Select Board did.
Thank you, AJ. Daniel Stapleton?
Sorry, Mark, what did you say?
Daniel Stapleton on Zoom. Daniel, you'll need to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, hi. Did you call for Dan Stapleton?
Yes, thanks, Dan. Go ahead.
Hey, Mark. Sorry, I didn't hear that. Yeah, Dan Stapleton, 20 Conant Street, West Concord. Just following up on a email letter that I sent out this week to the Select Board requesting a delay in putting out a bid for a cell tower at Right Outfield until the time that appropriate due diligence studies can be completed.
Short and sweet. Thanks, Dan. Maureen?
Thank Marion Hoda, Carlisle. During a recent select board meeting and in comments to the media, board members have incorrectly asserted that the Special Commission on Combating Anti-Semitism adopted the IRA definition. In fact, the Special Commission's final report did not adopt IRA. Instead, it included language, quote, embracing IRA while also explicitly welcoming the nexus definition. In support of this point, there is a letter from Simon Cataldo's office in the board's correspondence that says, quote, nowhere in the report does the Special Commission say IRA should be adopted in any formal way, and, quote, IRA is just one tool in our toolbox when identifying and combating anti-Semitism. As the most prominent definition of anti-Semitism, it's important to be aware of and to consider, but it's not recommended to codify in any formal sense, end quote. Another difference is that the Special Commission's final report explicitly stated that those consulting IRA should understand that its examples should not be taken as per se anti-Semitism. The board received letters from the ACLU and other experts explaining that the IRA examples are frequently used to silence critics of Israel's policies. In Somerville, Ramesa Osterk was arrested by ICE for writing an opinion piece critical of Israel's policies. Based on an executive order that had adopted IRA, the State Department claimed that Osterk's piece in a university paper created a hostile environment for Jewish students. This and similar examples were communicated to the board, and yet the board refused to say that IRA examples should not be taken as per se anti-Semitism. In addition, the board has argued that the proclamation will not have a harmful effect because it is, quote, non-binding. In fact, the ACLU rushed a letter to the select board explaining that the IRA adoption is still harmful because it chills constitutionally protected speech and encourages Concord's leaders to suppress pro-Palestine speech. Also, it has to be said, the non-binding government actions, of course, still have impact. The Special Commission's final report itself is non-binding. The select board and others cited as authority and as the precedent that prompted the town's adoption of IRA. Again, even though the Commission's final report itself did not adopt IRA. Lastly, let's just take a step back and remind ourselves why this matters to so many people in the community. Ramesa Osterk speaks for many of us when she says that I want Palestinian children to know that many of us care about them, mourn with them, feel their hunger, hear their cries and screams, witness their pain, lose sleep for them, weep, pray, speak, write, and want to support them in every possible way. I want them to know how many of us tried with our small hands to stop the war. Someday, Palestinian children might know that some Americans did care and did try to end the genocide, but only if our voices aren't silenced. Now is the time for the board to have an evidence-based discussion about how to mitigate the harm of its IRA adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come back into the room.
Arispalos, Conan Street. I'm here for the third select board meeting in a row to express my anger with the select board for acting so recklessly in their decision to adopt the IRA definition. Recently, Minnesota's governor, Tim Walz, was hounded by the ADL for drawing comparisons between what's happening to Minnesota's children to what happened to Anne Frank. This was one of many things I warned about in my speech on January 27th that has come true. This is infuriating to see, as it reaffirms my stance that a mere 15 minutes of public comment was not sufficient for this board to make a clear and informed decision about voting to adopt the IRA. In other news, I've seen an uptick in anti-ICE signs around Concord that use quotes from the Diary of Anne Frank. I'd be curious to see if this select board has any plans to issue statements condemning the anti-Semitic usage of these quotes. And while we're at it, we might as well boycott a few local businesses that have those signs posted up, because clearly our critical thinking skills must be anti-Semitic when we are forced to draw parallels between ICE agents and Nazis. I yield the rest of my time. Have a great night.
Cynthia?
Thanks. Hi, Cynthia Katz, 20 Conant Street. I want to thank the Select Board and the Deputy Town Manager for your thorough, transparent process to address Concord Center's wireless service problems. You were inclusive, held listening sessions, conducted surveys of residents, evaluated and discussed multiple sites, all that helped build trust. And this level of transparency was wonderful, but that's not what's happening in West Concord. Unlike the center, West Concord has no clearly documented service problems nor urgency by citizens to solve what we see as a non-existent problem. There have been no surveys, no listening sessions, no alternatives analysis, nor enough analysis of existing cell service except for one preliminary look, the IDK study. Yet there's been a rush to put out an RFP for a cell tower at Rideout, West Concord's beloved and well-used town playground and field, which is embedded in a dense neighborhood. Children and adults of all ages use this park extensively. There are many other viable locations, including in West Concord, including one that in 2004, our town meeting voted to include in an overlay map, and that is the West Concord Fire Station. Before an RFP is put out, I request the board and the town slows down and does the necessary work and due diligence, yet just as it did in Concord Center. West Concord deserves some the same transparent, thoughtful, and comprehensive approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thanks, Mark.
I'm going to go back to Zoom, Ruth B. You should be able to unmute now, Ruth.
Yeah.
Hi, yes, thank you for your time. Sorry, I don't want to get rude. Thank you very much. I would like to just echo a lot of what Cynthia Katz just said. My name is Ruth Bryan. I'm at 21 Conant Street. I have a lot of concerns about the cell tower in Rideout Park. It's a trusted community space for adults and children of all ages. There are health concerns with cell tower equipment, and it's low-level non-ionizing radio frequency radiation, which studies suggest have a lot of potential health risks, can include cancer, cellular stress, headaches, sleep issues, genetic damage, memory deficits, and impacts the nervous system. Ms. Zamuto had suggested that this would be a concern no matter where a cell tower placed, but there's different degrees of impact based on location, so I think that this deserves merit, and I'm extremely concerned about the fact that the current flagpole location, which I believe the RFP would be soliciting proposals for, is less than 200 feet away from an established playground. And so I just don't believe that. I know it's it seems like low-hanging fruit in that the town owns the land and it already has electric and fiber, but at the same time, I do not think it meshes with the values of the park, the values and uses of the park. This is a trusted, open, safe, healthy space where people like to go and commune and have fun, and it just does not seem compatible with a cell tower. And the other thing is that it's already a small park with multiple uses. It hosts the summer concert series. There's the beginning of the Memorial Day event, and then just the everyday uses. It's not a very large park, and so also anything that could diminish the size by being taken up by additional equipment, etc., I think would be an adverse impact to the park. And so I do ask you to continue to consider other locations and solutions for this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. And that's about 15 minutes of public comment, and magically, I think that's everybody who's identified themselves as being interested in commenting, so we can be good with that. I would just, as a general response, I would indicate that the topics that were raised today in public comment are issues that are likely to appear on upcoming select board agendas, and that's so we don't respond directly to public comments, even when some of them may contain factual inaccuracies. However, we do plan to be discussing some of these issues over, and we'll be talking about exactly when we're going to talk about them as the meeting goes on. So again, thank you to everyone for your attention and your interest in what we're doing. Moving on to the consent
Right.
agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent
I-
agenda.
I'm going to ask we pull off the January 27 meeting minutes for some discussion. I have a quick, I'll hand out a quick page with a couple of proposed edits.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I hear a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the January 27th.
Yeah,
Minutes.
yeah, so January 27th, I have wordsmith edits. I didn't add any topics. These are all sentences that were in the notes, but I went through it and I'm suggesting some clarifying language.
Okay.
So,
Context.
just on page 5 of the notes regarding my statement around, we were talking about material weaknesses, the financial material weaknesses, so I've just put some language that I think clarifies how that discussion happened. So, in response to Mr. McKennett's inquiry regarding whether the material weaknesses were highlighted as deficiencies in previous years, Ms. Barrett answered that yes, a few of the weaknesses were highlighted, to which I expressed concern regarding the ongoing nature of the weaknesses. Then again, when we talked about the reconciliation process, I was just simply on this trying to separate. There was one comment about the light plant. There was a separate comment about 45-day cash reconciliation. The way it was written kind of blended it, so it kind of sounded like it was one item. And then the last one was just around the audit committee and just clarifying the discussion around the audit committee, whether they were, just my question was, they weren't involved in the choosing of the auditors. So just clarifying that those were the notes. And then I did have a last question on page 7, which I didn't quite understand. There was a note there that said, Megan, that you said economic vitality is funded, has historically been funded
Manager.
through ARPA?
Is it the,
And I just wanted to clarify that. Is that,
There has been a budget for cultural initiatives that has been managed by our economic vitality manager. The position is only less than 3 years old, so not the salary of the employee, but the funds for
Okay,
programming.
so-
come from ARPA.
okay, we might want to edit that, because it says, the notes say the
Yeah.
economic vitality position
yeah,
has been
Okay.
funded by ARPA.
yeah.
And I didn't think that was true. So I think that's just one other edit we might want to make.
I'm happy to take a look at
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Proposed,
We can revise it and bring it back next week. Does that make sense?
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or approve it with these?
yeah, or you can approve it with these
Approve it.
edits if you want. I mean,
I just want to make sure we have the proper statement in those minutes. I
So
don't
you
have
want
it
to
right
come
in front
back
of me.
Monday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just,
that's fine.
it's hard just to see the edit.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, that one on page 7, I didn't have the language. I
Yep.
just,
Yep.
it didn't seem correct to me, so,
Yeah, no, it's good.
There's
Okay.
some money in it.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
All
it
right.
does, true.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay,
So-
so we'll defer that, and we're
We'll bring
meeting
it back.
again on Monday anyway. so
Okay, great.
Assume that those administrative edits can be
Yep,
published by then. We will, because of the shortened week, we're probably not going to have any other minutes
right, I don't,
at next Monday's
That'd be
meeting
quick.
anyway, because these
Right.
are the most
Okay.
recent minutes.
Cool.
Okay,
all right, then we can move on to appointments and reappointments. So I make a motion to approve the
We
reappointment.
approve the consent?
we
Yes,
did
we
we
did.
approved it,
Yes,
pulling
we
off
did.
the,
And you
without
got
the
it.
January
Yeah.
Got it.
27th minutes.
Which
didn't
is
go back.
exactly what
Okay.
we just did.
So make a motion to approve the reappointment of Sue LaChance of 18 Studley Court to the West Concord Cultural District Committee for their second 3-year term, and the reappointment of Sue Beck of 190 Prairie Street to the West Concord Cultural District Committee for their second 3-year term.
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Glad to have them
It
back.
occurs to me that I don't have a microphone right in front
Oh,
of me.
sorry, I know we share.
Yeah, I'm going to steal Mary's.
Go
but- Okay, great. Considering it's the chair's report, I thought you might like to hear it.
Mary, I can swing this over too.
Yeah.
Need it at some point.
If I need it. It's-
Just a few things. It's clear to me from the ongoing set of comments that there is potentially some confusion in the community about our position with respect to the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism and our inclusion of a reference to it in a proclamation we made, and whether or not that represents, quote, adoption of that policy. So I wanted to get a sense of the board of whether you agree with me that there is some lack of clarity on that, and whether we should schedule a further discussion on that particular point of, exactly where we stand with respect to adoption or reference. We heard some comments tonight. We've heard comments in previous meetings, so I just wanted to query you on that. And if so, we're not going to discuss the position now, but whether or not we want to see that on an upcoming meeting.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I think there's confusion and a bit of, I'll call conflation between the definition itself and the examples given in the document.
Yeah.
I think, they are two distinct pieces,
Okay.
and I think we need to discuss that in some detail, just to clarify.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll look to take that into account. A couple of things. There is I don't know that everybody got this, so there was an invitation from the Secretary of State for a Wednesday, March 11th event unveiling a new exhibit at the Commonwealth Museum. And there's an RSVP date for the March 4th. I'm pretty sure that I'm not available. It has to do with celebrating 250th, and I just wanted to call attention to that for the board, and if anybody's interested in attending to represent Concord with the Secretary of State, just see me about that.
Get confirmed. I can't attend.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's the date, Mark? Did you?
It's, the event itself is going to be on Wednesday, March 11th, and it's at the Commonwealth Museum, and it's an exhibit called First to Be Free, the Evacuation of Boston. So it's, celebrating the 250th, and so we have an invitation to represent the board there from the Secretary of State, of the Secretary of the Commonwealth.
Are we expected to say something, or
I don't think so. I think it's just,
all
it's-
citizens
We all-
invited? Will we be missed?
Yeah. We'll be missed.
Will we be missed?
It didn't appear that way. So if anybody has an interest, just let me know. I will mention also that we have received several open meeting law complaints for the board, and it is around the development of the proclamation that we did on January 27th. And we have 14 business days to review those in an open session. So I'm looking to schedule that, as well as a further 14 business days once we've reviewed it to provide a response. And I do think that the issues that are raised and are may require us to seek some guidance. So what I'm going to suggest is that we schedule plus we're getting really tight on meeting time. So looking at this, I was going to suggest that prior to the public hearings on either March 10th or March 12th, which are the town meeting public hearing on Minuteman and CPC is on the 10th, and then the hearing on the enterprise funds is on the 12th. Those seem like we could allocate 6 to 7 to do the review and then decide on our response. It's worthwhile to familiarize ourselves with the process. This is not something that we have routinely dealt with in the past. I know I'm going to be seeking some guidance on specifically what's required in a review beyond just reading the complaint, and then what we would be proposing to do in response to those complaints. So can I take a quick poll?
You'll share that guidance before the...
Yes. In fact, what we're looking at is whether we should, get some guidance from town council, and obviously the town clerk is available to us to work on that. So that's why I want to push this to those days so that we can have some time to prepare to do an appropriate review of these questions. Does anybody have a problem with the 10th or the 12th?
12th is better for me. I
Okay.
think I can do the 10th, but I might
Okay.
have a work conflict.
Yeah.
So if if everyone else is indifferent, I would pick the 12th.
Okay,
Yeah, I think likewise, I think 12th is better for me.
all right.
Either one works for me.
Yeah, it should be either one. I will, the tea leaves on the length of the hearings is usually the enterprise hearing is considerably longer than the CPC hearing. So if we're thinking about how much meeting time there is on the 9th, that's the only reason I would lean towards the 10th.
Me
But
too. That's going to be a light hearing.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
do the 10th, or you don't know?
do you want to get back to me?
I can, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me find, I mean, I just, the
Okay.
10th, I get some people in from out of town on work, so
Okay.
I'm trying to confirm if there's a dinner.
Yeah,
All right, great.
The 12th, I know I can
with me,
make.
the 10th is
Okay.
possible, 12th is better, but if we
Okay.
land on the 10th, that'd be okay.
Okay,
Let me
so-
try to make the 10th work.
All right.
All right, let me find out.
Let's do that, and we'll plan to review those matters then.
Okay.
That's what I had for a chair's report for today. Let me just check my notes.
So you'll let us know.
Yes,
Okay.
so it's going to be either the 10th or the 12th, and we're going to see what Kim's availability is.
Okay.
Okay. Town managers report, Carrie.
Okay, thank you. This is the town manager's report where I'm going to talk about the monthly projects report. So that is in your packet, the February monthly projects report. I wanted to note that we've been developing this report over the past several months to strengthen how we track major initiatives, coordinate work across departments, and communicate progress in a consistent way. It's intended to give you clearer visibility into where projects stand, what's coming next, and where policy or budget decisions are needed. Overall, February reflects a period where many initiatives are moving from planning and design into execution, testing, and closeout. That's an important transition point, reflecting progress, but increasing the demand for coordination across departments. As of February, we're tracking about 50 projects across 9 departments, including 11 cross-departmental initiatives. 14 projects are currently in active execution. What's notable this month is the balance across the phases. We're no longer concentrating primarily on early planning, but instead moving forward, we're seeing a steady pipeline moving from design into construction and operational handoff. That balance is important as we align fiscal '26 implementation with our planning efforts for fiscal '27. The project spotlight this month is the Baker Ave culvert, the repair. This project is a good example of responsive infrastructure management. Following the sidewalk sinkhole, staff moved quickly through stabilization of the area, design of the repair, construction, and are now at closeout. As of February, the construction is complete, traffic controls have been removed, and the punch list walkthrough has been completed. Final sidewalk restoration will occur in the spring, weather permitting, and final inspection is underway. This initiative demonstrates the value of having strong engineering capacity and capital flexibility when unexpected failures occur. You might remember that this was not a project that we had originally budgeted for. So under the category of infrastructure and utilities, several major infrastructure initiatives continue to advance. At the light plant, the advanced metering rollout is now in its validation and closeout phase, with system-wide installation complete. This work is converging with the preparations for the April activation of time-of-day rates, including customer communication and billing coordination. In our water and sewer division, smart water meter installation is moving through early implementation with system integration ahead. At the same time, wastewater capacity planning and coordination with MCI are progressing to support longer-term capital decisions. Across public works, roadway maintenance, pedestrian and bicycle safety improvements, and facilities are all advancing at various stages. These projects reflect our continued focus on asset management, risk reduction, and long-term infrastructure resilience. Under the category of public safety and technology, public safety modernization remains a major focus. The fire department continues its transition to ALS ambulance service. Training and licensing are well underway, with multiple paramedics already certified and additional certifications projected throughout calendar 2026. The target remains to move to the ALS level ambulance service in January of 2026, though that will be dependent upon licensing.
27?
27.
No,
right?
2026. I checked this
January.
with the fire chief.
So
January.
last month.
Did I say?
Right, you said
I'm
January.
sorry,
yeah.
July,
July.
July, right? It's-
Okay. All right.
July
Okay.
2026.
July.
Okay.
That's it. So it still hasn't quite got here yet, but
Yes.
it is this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
The police department's CAD and records management upgrade is also moving through procurement and early implementation, laying the groundwork for improved dispatch and reporting. On the technology side, enterprise systems are shifting from deployment into validation and stabilization. Our townhouse security upgrades, audiovisual improvements, and cybersecurity initiatives are progressing in coordination with their capital priorities. February also reflects continued momentum on longer-term initiatives. The Climate Action and Resilience Plan update is now underway with consultants engaged and staff and committee coordination beginning. Cell infrastructure improvements are advancing at multiple sites, the umbrella and the landfill, with environmental review and lease negotiations in progress. Community development continues to work on the comprehensive transportation strategy, the Reimagine MCI Master Planning Initiative, and the Assabet River Trail, all of which will inform fiscal 27 and beyond. Under fiscal 27 coordination and oversight, one of the most important themes this month is making sure that the work that we're doing for the remainder of fiscal 26 is in alignment with what we're doing in 27. And that capital plan, as you know, has already, we have the final draft, and that's moving toward public hearing. So I'll just mention in closing, February reflects disciplined execution across infrastructure, public safety, technology, and planning initiatives while maintaining a strong focus on fiscal 27. We're seeing the benefits of coordinated project management, improved transparency, and sustained cross-department coordination. And I'm happy to take questions.
Well, first, I wanted to extend thanks to the staff. The fact that we got through, the blizzard of 26 with, virtually no major outages
Yeah.
is an amazing thing. And the fact that so much, work that's really important is continuing to go on despite the amount of disruption that we've had in this winter is a testament to the level of organization. So I really like the way this is coming together. My reaction reading through it was on the individual department and project pages, it would be helpful if they, carried some date on the page so that, I can imagine as we start to see this more often, it could get a little bit difficult to know which month or what the sort of effective date of the report is. So that's kind of an addition I would make, but the information that's in here is really quite useful. Paul?
Yeah, I have a question. In your table on the cell infrastructure improvement, I just want to clarify what it says on the right, coverage assessment complete in West Concord. Megan presented the West Concord Advisory Committee, and there was lots of questions about whether that was complete. So I assume that we're going to, I'm looking at Megan, kind of revisit sort of that coverage kind of question that came up amongst other West Concord cell questions.
There were not any additional studies. It's just the one that was presented to the board in the fall. So that was the one analysis that I was referring to in that report.
Well, I'm just saying, given the comments at that meeting about coverage, I'm just wondering if we could clarify that, whether we're really complete with a coverage assessment, maybe that study, but are we complete that we understand it all? I think not. That's why.
I think that this topic might be on a future agenda to talk about a little bit more.
No, I don't want, I want to just clarify that statement that's complete. Is that an accurate statement? I don't know.
A study was done, yeah, but is it complete?
It is a subject of a whole nother
Yeah,
discussion.
yeah.
I just looked at that, and I think that could
I
be,
can see how that language.
that could be a little misleading.
understand
So
Okay.
I just want to go on record that that study is complete, but the entire issue may
Yeah.
not be.
And because cell coverage is one of the goals that we've focusing on this year, we are looking at an update, and I think we decided
Next week,
next Monday.
yeah.
So that's
So stay tuned.
a couple of days.
Right, right.
Okay, just-
We're
just
going
look
to
at-
try and bring that in
Yeah,
ahead
no,
of the
yeah,
hearing
yeah.
tomorrow,
Right.
or at our next meeting, which is coming up fast.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Mary.
I have a question about, well, first of all, thank you for this. This is a lot of really good information. I zeroed in on the facilities report, and it looks like we're doing work at the Harvey Wheeler Kitchen. And I know that's quite an expensive project. Is that true?
So
I remember
there is a capital project that was approved to look at the feasibility of expanding that kitchen. And so that is on our radar.
Okay.
We do not have anybody under contract for that. Obviously, as we've been talking about all facilities, we're also talking about that. But it is teed up to move to a study, but we have not yet moved to the study. And I'm hoping that
it
we
says a
could,
consultant analysis underway.
I think reviewing the services that would be needed, what the scope of work would be for that project.
Okay.
But we do need to understand
Yeah.
the short and long-term plans as best we can for that building, because we have a significant issue with that kitchen. We're operating, our senior center using something that's, it's not a residential kitchen, but it's not a fully functioning commercial kitchen either, and we're using it for, it is a commercial operation.
No, I understand. I'm just, it jumped out at me because this might be a facility that we consolidate.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
want to be careful about, and the estimates I heard were quite expensive for this kitchen. So just want to be careful that when we're thinking of making capital investments in facilities, that we keep in mind that, are they going to stay there?
Yes.
Okay.
Could I, just a couple of comments on the CMLP projects. So just one on the middle school solar. My understanding is that there may be an opportunity for a Green Schoolworks grant. So just so folks are aware that the school is kind of applying for, in the process of trying to get some money for that. And then just a reminder on the time of use rollout. It goes into effect April 1st. The bill you get in April for your March usage will not
Will not be
have
that.
time of use. So if people get a bill in April, and it's like, where's the time of use? It's like, you're going to get billed, it's going to go into effect in April. The bill you'll get in May for the April usage will reflect the time of use. So that was the only other.
So we did apply for that grant.
For the school, okay,
Yeah.
good.
And
Yeah,
that
I knew it was underway.
a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And we have on the planning chart for the March 16th
Yes.
meeting, bringing the middle school, representatives from the middle school building committee here to close out that project, but then also have the director of CMLP to come to talk about the solar project as well.
Good.
I think Jason's at the school committee tonight talking about it as well.
I
Yeah.
think are we also going to look at the Bruce Veman Rail Trail to the middle school
At that
connector
same-
path at that? So lots of stuff
Yeah.
about the middle school on March 16th.
Do you have a question? Paul, did you have a, no, you're good.
Okay.
I had one question around the comprehensive transportation study. I thought it was going to be ready in March, but what's the timeline now, is May? Is that what I read in the report? Oh.
We've got a couple of people here who probably answered.
No better.
Yeah, Alyssa Sandoval mentioned at the TAC meeting that it was going to be presented to a joint meeting of TAC and Public Works, and they might invite the Select Board in the near future. I think we have, oh yes, we have the, we don't have a date.
Okay,
But it's
okay.
ready for,
Yeah, I just had March in my head for when I thought it was going to be released, but then I thought I saw May in here, so.
it's ready for public review, but we don't have a date yet for that.
Okay.
Soon.
So
You can keep us in the loop on that then, right? When that's
Absolutely.
coming in. Okay.
that's something that needs to make it onto the planning. All right.
But maybe not till May, I'm not sure. Yeah. But you know what, Carrie, every time you produce this report, it's a little better every single time, so thank you. It's a lot of work, so appreciate it.
I'm hoping this is about the last iteration of it, but, cleaning up any data and keeping it current, because we'd like to switch and do an operational update as well, and
That would
I'm
be
thinking
great.
through that
That
and,
would be great.
do one monthly meeting, one
Yeah.
the other.
Oh, great.
What points out to me, though, is the number and the diversity of efforts
Work.
that it takes to run a town.
Yeah,
Right.
12 different businesses, I'd
Yes,
like to
it
say,
really
yes.
is.
at least,
So,
at least.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. I think with that, we're ready to move on to the public art proposal. So this is sidewalk decals in West Concord. Thank you for your patience. I know we're running a little behind.
Thanks for all you do. You guys are really in the weeds here. So my name is Anne, and I led the West Concord Art Loop project last year, and Sue is our president of the Cultural Committee, which is responsible for the Art Loop, among other things like Porch Fest and the Poetry Phone. So anyway, the project was a success, we feel, by the feedback that we got, and we'd like to replicate it. I know last year some of the concerns had to do with safety, but we were able to demonstrate that the decals went on cleanly, they stayed there, and then they pulled off no problem, so there was no destruction of property, no injuries that were incurred as a result of the decals, and I think there was a lot of joy. Our mission as a committee is to foster a vibrant cultural community and strengthen West Concord as a place to live, work, and play. We got lots of good feedback, not only from the residents, but also from the local business owners who were very pleased to have the decals there and felt that it drew traffic to their businesses.
I would say probably the biggest testament is when we had to rip them off earlier than we
Yeah.
wanted to. Everyone was so upset about it. So hopefully you'll be excited to have another round of that with different artists and different art. So it's a great thing to celebrate, and businesses and community and visitors alike all really enjoyed it.
And just so we're saying it out loud, what's the approximate schedule for when new decals would be installed, and how long would they be up?
May until the end of October.
Great.
I think we had a little extension last year because they were doing so well,
Yeah.
but we did pull them up before the first snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right before the
So is the scope, size, duration of what you're proposing this year different or the same as
No,
last year?
it's the
So the
same.
number of decals, the locations, the duration is all kind of same year over year?
That's exactly right.
Okay, great.
So we're hoping that now that there's awareness, it was sort of conceptually a tricky thing to tell artists, like, we want to put your art on the ground and have people walk on it. And so, but now people really, they got it, and people were interested. They were asking if we were going to do it again. They were saying, oh, I know somebody who would love to be a part of this, or this person's work should be showcased. So it was really nice to have a cross-section of our community, and we're hoping to get even more
No, they know what it is.
submissions, right, now that they get it, have even more submissions this year, and that would be great.
So this is existing artwork that is transformed into decals.
That's exactly right. So the artist, they upload a high-resolution photo of their art, And then I make sure that it's the right, dementia, 5x4, 4x5. And then it's printed on essentially just a very durable sticker. That's an all-weather sticker, a 16 by 20 inch sticker. And we just stick them on the sidewalk. And they come right up when we want them to, but they stay there until we don't.
Is there a call for artwork, or do you go to specific people?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So I have flyers ready to go that I'll place around town. Also, places like Live in Concord, Art for All puts in their newsletter. So there are some online places advertising the work. I'll also, because I have the list of artists from last year, send out a message to them, letting them know about the opportunity. And we also, yes, we reached out to all the art teachers in the community. Unfortunately, did not get any submissions from any art teachers in the public schools here, but we got some private school submissions, and hopefully this year that will be different. And we also have an Instagram account where we try to get some feedback from the community and get people to tag us so that we can extend the invitation to submit art.
It'd be nice to get some kids' artwork.
Absolutely.
definitely
The most
kids.
surprising thing was that we had so few submissions from children last year.
So based on our experience with removing them, do they survive? Are they relatively intact? And what happens to the
So they-
stickers
Do we
after? Well, I was thinking
Good hand them out.
that the artist or somebody would probably be interested in them.
So it's funny you should say that, because Ann Sussman wants to do a whole, what is she going to call it, an after the sidewalk or
Collage
sidewalk
someplace.
on the wall, something. She wants to take them and put them on the wall after we take them up. And so she would take them in the fall when we pull them up, and then display them for a few months in the winter. They are kind of gritty, and because we were in a rush, we weren't very thoughtful about how we removed them, but they were technically intact, and so it could certainly be done, especially if we had a plan going forward.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A few were saved last year when someone said, hey, you shouldn't be throwing those away.
Yeah.
And some artists did want them back, so
Yeah.
this will be a way to
Yes.
repurpose them.
And
Great.
also, some art was procured via the Art Loop, where people saw the art and then used the QR code to get to the website, and then followed that link to the artist's site and
Yeah.
bought the actual art, the original piece of art from the artist.
That was a great feature. A lot of people ask me, like, where can I get information about these artists? I'm like, that QR code. It was great.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just have one question. There was an interesting comment in our packet about the placement on the sidewalk, sort of on the side versus in the center.
Right.
I guess outside Deborah's, we did it a little differently. Is that the plan throughout the whole sidewalk?
That's the plan, and
Okay.
the sidewalk actually varies in width
Yeah.
along Commonwealth, and so when we could, we placed them off to the side.
Okay.
And we also were mindful not to place them on any downslopes or anywhere near a door where people would be
Yeah.
entering or exiting.
Great. It's thoughtful. Thank you. It's great. It's a great project.
Okay,
We
so
ready for-
the action that we need to take today is to approve the
Yeah.
public art proposal for another year.
So I make a motion to approve the public art proposal, the sidewalk decals art loop, as presented.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good luck. We look
Thank you.
forward to
Thank
it.
you.
It's really exciting.
I look forward to seeing
You
these
know anyone
again.
creative, please submit something.
We'll tell the
The
schools.
link will also be on the town's
And draw a
website.
stick
Yeah,
figure.
great.
That's about it.
Grandchildren, we're going to see.
Yeah. Well, once they see the possibility of getting on there, the kids will, I can imagine this becoming competitive.
Oversubscribed.
Yeah.
Oh, I know someone.
All right.
Yep.
So the next item on our agenda is a presentation by Liz Rust. I thought I saw her online earlier. And this is about the local initiative program, which is a change in status of the monitoring program that would be in place for affordable housing and the 40B project known as Novo Riverside. And Liz is going to explain to us what they're proposing to do. And the action on this would be something that would be proposed for our next meeting.
Okay, so we're not,
This is background.
We're learning
Yeah.
here.
okay.
So
This is
Novo will
background.
be here when we take a vote.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it.
Liz?
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm Liz Rust, and I'm glad to be here. Wish I was there in person, but glad to be here virtually. Can you hear me okay and see me okay?
Yes.
Yep, perfect. So as Mark mentioned, this is a more of a briefing, that it's an introduction to this request by Novo to move programs from one 40B program under Mass Housing to the 40B program under EOHLC. And so this is just to provide some information, answer some questions in advance of Novo coming forward with a vote from you, from the board. So that's their request coming up. So as you know, Novo Riverside Commons is the 40B project on Baker Avenue with a 201 multifamily residential rental units proposed. 51 of those are affordable. The project received its project eligibility letter, which is the ticket to the ZBA for 40B permit processing back in 2023, and then moved on from there. I put together a brief overview of the 40B process so that you could see that the 40B process under Mass Housing, as well as the one under the EOHLC, is really the same 40B process. That's the regulated 40B legislation, as well as the guidelines and all the standards. The main difference is that the 40B through the state requires the town to sign the application prior to it going to the state to get the project eligibility letter. You might recall that both the Thoreau 40B and the Novo 40B went right to Mass Housing without your approval, and then once it got there, it came back for a public comment period and then moved through the public process and the ZBA process after that. With the EOHLC, the LIP 40B process, you're asked to sign that application prior to it going to the state. So there's some differences between the programs, and I think the first difference, is there's a 30-year regulatory agreement term for Mass Housing, and with the LIP program under EOHLC, it's a perpetual restriction, so that's a benefit to the town. And the main difference, which is what is probably triggering this, is there's no constraints on lenders, construction lenders and financing lenders for the project under the LIP project. Mass Housing, to go through the Mass Housing 40B, you must be an NEF lender. So that's the Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston, has an NEF program, and lenders are under that, and those are the only lenders that you can use under the Mass Housing 40B. So the fact that Novo wants to change programs means that they're really looking at closing on their construction loans and moving forward into the actual building phase of the project, so that's very good, good progress. I know that when they come next meeting, I think that's what you said, you're going to hear them. They'll come with their LIP application, and then they'll be able to talk to you also about their detailed schedule and project plan. One of the other differences between the two programs is the LIP program, the Local Initiative Program, requires that the town certify and monitor the units. And so that's a difference. In Mass Housing performs that monitoring function. This is a responsibility that the RHSO does for member towns, including Concord. The Prescott, up there, the 40B over there, is also a LIP project, and we do that monitoring. So this would be a change, and we've proposed to sign to have the town sign a sub-monitoring contract to pick up the cost of that monitoring, and the developer seems to be positively supportive of that, and that will come forward next time as well. There's some also differences in how they calculate rents, which I've identified in the memo, and then a brief outline of the process steps. I put in a little bit of background about how the current subsidized housing inventory for Concord. Concord's currently at 13.34% on the subsidized housing inventory. This particular request for Novo doesn't have any bearing on that. Novo is not counted on the subsidized housing inventory, and those units will count as soon as a building permit is issued. The big thing coming up for the subsidized housing inventory is that the Thoreau 40B, those units will lapse off the SHI in April, most likely. So leaving Concord just a few units above the 10%.
Liz, can
So
I
that's a brief outline of the material I provided, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Yeah, I did have one question, and it had to do with the rent increase. I noticed there was a
Sure.
small difference in the formula, but what caught my attention was that the rent increases had to be approved by Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities and the town. What function of the town, or who would be providing that particular approval? Is that a select board matter, and are we doing that in any other properties at this time?
We do that currently through the planning department. Elisa Sandoval does that approval. We do that now with the projects that go through the same process.
So does that, I'm thinking, I'm probably stretched out here a little bit, but I'm thinking, does this become an issue where there's, constituency, presumably renters who are living in these apartments who have an opinion about what the rent increases should be? And is there a hearing process, or can you describe that a little more detail to me?
Sure. The regulatory agreement describes the methodology that allows for a maximum rent that the developer can charge. And that's tied to the income limits, and there's little flexibility around that. We work with developers to have maximum rents below that. When sometimes the income limits might go up 10%, which is too much of a rent increase, and we've been able to be successful in negotiating a lower rent, even though the regulatory agreement gives them the authority to charge a full 10% increase.
This is just for the affordable units, right? The 51 affordable.
I'm sorry, can you talk up a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing.
I'm sorry, Liz, I lost the microphone. This is just for the affordable units, it's not for the market rate units, right?
Oh, correct.
Okay, good, just wanted to clear that. Thank you.
Yep, and in the end, EOHLC has the final say, and they use the town input in determining whether they'll approve it or not. And as I say, that because we work with so many properties, we have been able to be successful at negotiating more reasonable rent increases.
Paul?
Liz, hi, Paul Baum. Just a question on the regulatory process. Under the mass housing, the regulatory process, the town's regulatory process comes after the state, from the state. The regulatory sequence would change on the LIP process, right? We'd have to go through all the town processes before it went to the EOHC. The regulatory sequencing would be different in the future, not on this project because it's kind of done. This change is largely due to the financing options, I assume, but if future programs, the regulatory sequencing is different, correct?
Yes, so the town has a lot of upfront review and discretion always about signing on to the application before it goes to the state.
So in future 40B projects, does the town have any say over which process it goes through? Is that, which pathway the future 40B projects, if any, which pathway?
When a town is over 10%, generally will always be the LIP project, because you have the discretion of not hearing the 40B if you were over 10%. So a developer's not going to get to the ZBA to find out that you say, oh, we're over 10%, so we're not going to hear this project. So they'll always use the LIP process to ensure that there's local support before going forward. Mass housing 40Bs are pretty much only used for communities under 10%.
So I have a clarifying question. When it comes to the monitoring responsibility fee, under the mass housing program, they would pay for it, but under the LIP program, we, the town, would pay for it. Do I understand that? So this is an increment.
The responsibility is the town's under the LIP process. And so we're proposing that, where it says proposed there, the $35.50 annually, that would be proposed that the developer would pay annually to the town.
Does that cover our costs?
To the RSO, right? That's, yes. Liz, that's to the RSO, right?
Well, it would go to the town, and it would just offset the amount of RHSO fee, but it would go right to the town.
Right.
And you can decide whether it goes to the trust or directly to, general
guess-
fund or wherever you would want to place that. And it does cover the amount of hours that we would spend.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would want to propose that our costs are covered, whatever,
Right.
whatever those costs are.
So how is that different than mass housing? I don't understand the difference.
Well, it looks like
The developer would pay mass housing directly
Mass-
for their monitoring.
And we're not involved.
Right, and mass housing.
We're not
is the
involved at all.
focus.
No.
Right.
So,
No access to the
Yeah.
records or the
Okay,
information
okay,
or
good.
anything,
Okay,
yes.
fine.
so Liz, thank you for outlining this. How, I understand the lender, excuse me, the developer wants to switch, right? And they want to do that for financing reasons. How does it benefit, like, why do we want to do it? How does it benefit us?
We want the 40B, we want the Novo project. We want
Just to be clear, Liz froze.
And letting them go forward and get those building permits as quick as possible, right? Like you want those building permits, you want those units on the SHI and to continue the project. They're gonna come to you with this application and you can, not support it, if that's
No, I
what
guess
you
I was
choose.
thinking they can go forward in either case.
That's right.
They can go forward in either case, right?
Yep.
I was
Well,
just- so I'm just trying to understand.
you're controlling it. You sign the LIP application when it comes to you, and that allows it to go forward.
So they
They
already,
can't go forward without your signature.
Right,
they already went to mass housing, and now they want to change their financing.
yeah.
That's
So
why.
So,
Presumably, if we, if they actually have to change their financing for some reason, and we don't agree to it, then that, I assume could lead to project failure.
Right.
I think the main difference, and correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, is that the regulatory agreement.
Can you speak a little bit closer into the microphone? I'm sorry.
The regulatory agreement is in perpetuity, which essentially means that the units are on the affordable housing inventory forever, as opposed to only 30 years. So that is a long-term benefit to the community to be able to maintain that level of affordable units.
It seems in this specific case, and we'll hear next week, it's to move the
Right.
project forward. Novo is saying they want to go this route. So, I
Right.
mean, this is both project-specific, but in the future, I think, Mark, it's general benefit to the town.
Right.
and I think we need to keep in sight that when we get the 2030 census, we're going to need these units to stay at the SHI.
Absolutely,
Or
yep.
vulnerable to another 40B coming
Right.
in that isn't as friendly as Novo.
Yeah, I wasn't asking in the sense of like kill. I was just asking in the sense of like, hey, here's two I was assuming like, hey, here's two pathways somebody can go down. They're like, hey, I've been going down this pathway. I want to switch and go to this one
Yeah.
because it helps me from
That's right.
I guess from a financing standpoint. I was just thinking like, does it help us some way? How does it help? That's all.
Helps us get the project done.
Helps us get the project going. Okay, so.
It helps us help them.
Yeah, okay. But, yeah, I was thinking in either way they have a pathway, but, okay, that's helpful. And then, I don't quite understand, maybe you can just, how the rent thing is, because it's got rents BR times 1.5, the other one is +1. How different are they? Like, is this like, the rents are going to be very different under the two programs, or is it like they're basically the same?
They're very similar. The two bedrooms are exactly the same. The 3 bedrooms are a little bit higher under the mass housing, and the LIP units are a little bit higher on the 1 bedrooms. So it's a technical difference.
Okay, so
not
it's
too substantial, but
small
it is a little bit of a
differences that are
difference.
more sort of
Right.
technical differences than there's some big difference in like what people will be paying. Okay.
But they all stay in the SHI,
Right.
right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, because it's a 40B, and it's regulated under 40B, it's compliant with all the 40B regulations.
Okay, good. So we probably understand enough at this point to hear the application.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right.
It'd be good to have them.
Yes.
Thank you, Liz.
Great.
Thank you, Liz. This is
Sure, anytime.
Thank you very much.
All right. The next item on our agenda is to review the FY27 final budget recommendations for the joint accounts and an update on free cash if we have it. And I believe that's Jennifer. There she is. Snuck in on me.
Snuck in on you.
She snuck in, she did.
Do you want me to run it or you want to run it?
What do you prefer?
If you've got it up, that would be great. Apparently, I didn't change the date this time. There we go. So tonight, we're going to provide a brief update on the changes in the last 2 weeks within the budgets for the joint accounts and the regional schools, how that relates to the overall outlook for FY24, and a few other items that we've been working on in the finance department. Starting with health insurance, we were initially advised to draft our budget with a 15% increase in health insurance. MIIA has released their FY27 rates, and due to below-average claims experience, we have received a confirmed 4.3% increase. With an update to the census and other planned staffing updates, an estimate for open enrollment changes due to favorable rates, and an adjustment for the January 1 retiree plan rate changes, we're now able to reduce the budget line by $667,800 to reflect a 7.4% overall increase. There's a lot of factors in that one line, but we were able to bring that down by about half.
Yeah.
Likewise, the property insurance estimates were lower than initially estimated, coming in at 8.1%. However, with an adjustment for the FY26 actuals that accommodated for a large rewards credits, we were going to see just a $4,841 decrease to 13.6% from our 15% estimate. This figure includes the 2% early pay discount. These two lines are our biggest percentage increases overall throughout the entire budget, though we were able to realize a 5% reduction from our earlier estimates, resulting in a total increase in the joint accounts of 2.9%. So this table might look familiar. This is the revised numbers showing the final joint accounts in the budget proposal. The other variances are just adjustments to the debt schedule. We received a revised borrowing estimate from the financial advisor.
And then Jennifer, can you just comment on workers' comp? I just noticed that that was pretty high. Is that just experience?
It is.
Okay.
And I might just point out for those people who are not used to this, the group insurance, the property liability, we get the planning number in January from those entities every year, and so this for better or for worse, this is the time of year when we normally get revised information, and this year the news is definitely helpful. It isn't always, but.
Right.
So just one other note on workers' comp. We have a partially self-funded plan, so it's
that's
not
what I
fully
had.
insured. We have stop-loss insurance at in the $500,000 to $600,000 range. So that's why you see a bigger jump, because it's not just it's not a premium product.
We're self-insured.
Yeah.
Premium-based
Yeah.
product.
Right.
Okay.
So a little update from our other regional schools. The health insurance reduction also favorably impacts the Concord Carlisle Regional School District budget. Recently, the Carlisle Finance Committee asked the region to reduce their assessment by $100,000 for Carlisle, so that would mean a much larger reduction overall, but they did not want to reduce education services. The CCRSD administration as regional school committee took up the discussion on this topic on Wednesday, February 4th. They did not have any revised actual numbers to vote. I believe that'll be coming up maybe even tonight. So we were able to get a little bit of clarity. To meet the directive, it would create a significant challenge, but for the boon of a reduction in insurance and an increase in state aid, Factoring in both, CCRSD was at the time contemplating a total reduction of $246,687, with a split to Concord of $184,621 and Carlisle of $62,066. So they were able to get 4/5 of the way there without a whole lot of effort. Whether they're going to make it to that next stage for Carlisle, we just don't know.
Can I interrupt you for a second? How do I say this? We have an agreement with Carlisle, a regional agreement, right, which determines how much their share is, and our share is based on enrollment, right?
Yes.
This isn't contradicting that at all?
No.
No.
Okay, just wanted to be clear.
It just, I think they gotten
They got a
hit
proportion.
because of that formula
Right.
this year. So
So
they
they
said,
wanted the
hey,
whole-
is there a way,
Yeah.
that you can help
Okay.
us by
Yes.
bringing the whole
They
budget
weren't
down?
looking for just
Yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
assessment to
Right.
come down.
Yeah,
Their portion.
So that,
Because that's, I wasn't clear to me.
yeah.
Yeah,
Now
they
I
have
feel
to.
better.
The
They
enrollment,
wanted 400.
the enrollment shift for this year significantly worked against Carlisle, and
I understand
and the
that.
math is usually 3-to-1
Yep.
in terms of contribution
a
because of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this doesn't
So it's-
change that. It just, we're kind of saying, hey, we,
So they
we
came
can
back
get-
to us and said, reduce all your spending
Yeah.
so that we can show 100.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
To be clear, they came back to the region
Right.
and
Thank you.
asked for that.
Not us.
Not
yes,
us.
yes,
Yeah.
But we paid the tax bill.
yes.
So, so we do not have actual reduction amounts, although we do know that there will be a reduction from what is printed in the warrant. We should be able to get that information at the public hearing on next Thursday.
Yeah.
The foundation budget for Concord's share of the Minuteman regional budget necessitated an adjustment for the minimum required contribution from the governor's budget released in January. In that process, it was noted that the enrollment figures for Concord's and one other town's students were short. The total budget was not changed. However, the assessments for all towns were adjusted as a result of the changes in the foundation budget. Concord's enrollment increased by 1 regular high school student and 2 post-secondary students. This resulted in a net increase of Concord's share of $55,073, or 3% increase over the original increase, total of 6.4%.
And we can ask them if they got increased state aid at the Thursday's hearing, because they should have gotten that as well as health insurance savings too, I would think. But
So we'll see, we'll hear
we'll
more from
have to
them
ask
next
them
week as
ourselves,
well.
right? Yeah.
But to be clear, are they with Maya as
I
well?
don't think they are. I think
Yeah.
there's a regional
Yeah, they're
vocational
part of-
tech
Yeah.
school
Yeah.
collaborative.
So they may have a different experience with their health insurance.
That's true, but state aid they should have received if
Yeah, that's true.
CCRSD did. So.
So on the screen, you can see the breakdown, updated town and schools. Obviously, the numbers haven't shifted a whole lot, and we still don't know what the region's actual final total is going to be. But total of the town general government and joint accounts is a 2.67% increase. CPS budget here is unchanged at the 2.75 guideline, and the CCRSD and Minuteman assessments have a net reduction of 0.34%, subject to further updates.
And that's the enrollment shift.
Overall, the impact of FY27 expense budgeting shows a total expected increase of 1.98%. For planning purposes, we generally use a standard 3% over the prior year's levy when calculating the revenues, but here we are able to adjust that to match our expenses. So prior revenue projections showed that 3%. If we, so total translates to approximately a tax rate increase, and this may change due to moving factors, about 26 cents per thousand. It's an estimated 1,700 estimated per median single-family house.
I'm not sure I know what that
I did some math, and let me see if I did it correctly, Jennifer, okay? So you said that the tax rate is going to go up 26 cents per thousand, and that could change if the valuations change. But let's just say valuations stay the same. I calculated that as about a 1.99% increase year over year on the residential tax rate. Does that sound right?
198. Yeah, it's right here in the chart.
Budget's a 1.98% increase, yes.
Bottom right corner.
I did all this math from nothing.
Bottom right corner in the table.
If the valuations don't change, yes.
Yeah.
And it's written here.
Yes.
Yeah,
But no, well, but Mary,
that's the
it's-
budget increase,
Hold
yeah.
on, because
Sorry.
I don't understand the 17.26. Tax rate is like 0.13.
No,
No, it's 13.2.
Okay, well, but $1,700.
Is the increase to your
To your
taxes
median, to the median
in household.
hold.
For the median
is different.
single
So
family.
if your taxes are
At the very
10,000
middle.
right now, it would be 11,700.
That doesn't make any sense to me. So the
That's an
average-
increase. She's talking
Well,
about an
hold on, hold
increase,
on.
right?
So the average
Yeah.
person in town, I don't know, well, off the top of my head, $1.4 million house, you pay $16,000, $17,000 a year in taxes?
No.
No?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Pay $17,000 a year in taxes. If your taxes go up 2%, that's $340. That's not 1,700 would be like 10%.
But that's off the median, right?
Right, yeah, so
Yeah,
we
it still should
factored
be.
a couple different ways.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody
We'll have-
walk me through how
we'll
everybody's taxes is
definitely
going to go up
have better-
$1,700, because I think you'd have a riot in
Get
the
it for the
streets.
hearing. I think, yeah.
The tax rate doesn't get set till November.
No, but I mean, in the
And so
hearing.
we'll definitely have everything calculated out. It all depends on local aid.
Yeah.
It all depends, local revenues, state aid, where we are able to pull in other revenues. And the budget is what we're looking at first, and everything else is driven by that.
So let us
Yes.
take another look
Yes.
at it, because we are comfortable with the increase is 1.98%.
Right, I think,
Yes.
I think it's a monthly.
Increase in what, though? I'm going to be,
The increase in overall budget, and...
yeah, but I was calculating the increase in the average in the tax bill.
Right, and
Yeah.
we're showing that as 1.96% increase in property tax overall.
Oh, tax levy, over the tax levy.
In
yeah.
tax levy.
Yeah.
So let us,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if your taxes are 17,000,
Yeah,
which is about, I mean, median mean is, 17, 19, something like that.
Yeah.
1,700 is a
obviously
way higher
this is a
percentage.
high-interest number here.
Yeah, right.
I think knowing exactly what impact people are going to see on their property tax bill when they open the envelope,
Yeah.
right, is what we're looking
Yes.
for here.
Yes.
Well,
I mean,
about 1.96% best estimate
Yeah.
right now, so let's,
Pam's right, though. if
Work on
the-
that. I'm working with prior year medians.
yeah.
Because
We usually
we're,
quote that.
right now, we're in new reval, so it makes it a little challenging to actually make that
Right.
further
Okay.
calculation when we don't have settled revenues and
So,
actual medians.
okay.
Yep.
So the good news is that the various adjustments that
Yes.
are taking place are in the right direction.
Yes, I don't want to
generally.
overshadow the good
And-
news.
Yeah, yeah.
and
Other
we're-
2%. Okay, yeah.
By the time the presentation comes
Yes.
out, the
Yes.
the median
Yes.
tax bill and the appropriate adjustment will be correct. I agree with you. It's not 1,700.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's
But under 2%.
Yeah.
And I also should point out, I think I saw, if you look at the total debt, you had an earlier chart, both subject to levy and non,
It's down.
the total debt service is going down a little
Yeah,
bit year
yeah.
over year, by about a couple $100,000. I mean, it's just,
Yep.
which is a
Year
good
one.
thing, right? It doesn't mean, we'll see what the future holds for our projects and all that stuff, but
Yeah,
that's a good thing to see.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. Okay.
excluded debt's not going down. But anyway,
No,
go
but the
ahead.
total, included
Yeah.
and
Right.
excluded.
But
Like,
excluded.
just, if you look at, in total, what we're paying for debt service
Yeah.
and interest and principal is a lower
Okay.
number all
so
in.
the excluded debt includes an estimate for the roads, the new roads
Yeah.
project.
Yep.
Yep.
And then the schools, the debt
Coming down.
service was level payment is what
Right.
we've done
Yeah.
most of it. So
I
you're
know.
not going to see much
Right.
of
Not gonna
a
see much.
decrease there for
Yep.
years to come.
And we're adding the last piece of the middle school project
Gary,
as
this
well.
includes what percentage of the road, because there was 20 So it's not,
It's 1 year's
Yeah,
worth,
one-
so it's the
so it's
6.2.
5 by 5.
1/5
Six
or
and a
something.
quarter.
1/5 of the total, yeah, got it.
Have we given any thought to refinancing this middle school debt to,
We can't refinance the middle school debt yet, but we are going to look at all of our debt with the financial advisor and see if there is anything that's up for potential refunding and see if there's any savings to be had. At this point right now, the middle school is too new.
Yeah, it was callable in 6 or 8 years or something
Yeah.
like that. So
and interest rates
we're
have gone up, actually.
going to have to live with it.
Issued those bonds.
Yeah.
Right, so we have to look at
Look at it carefully.
timing as well as what we're actually paying on rates.
Okay, good.
Right. Okay.
All right, you want to move on?
Yes.
So we have a few things that we've been working on. The budget book, so the warrant was printed in the Bridge last week. It's available online. And we have also posted the budget book for the general fund online. The enterprise sections are under construction, and we'll populate those over the next week or two in advance of the public hearings.
And you guys should all go look at the budget online. Are you going to demo it?
Straight if
Oh,
you
good,
want.
good. I didn't see that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you want to give
That's
me
cool.
share access, I've actually got it pulled up. There's a new feature which I think is going to be popular. Okay. There we go.
So I think, but are you still sharing?
No, I took it away from her.
Just change.
Okay, great. There we go.
There we go.
Right.
So, so this is our budget book online. If you follow the links, if you just search up budget book, you can pick the 2027 budget book, and this is what comes up on the front page. If you click the arrow to the left, you can work your way through all of the preliminary information. If you click the smaller arrow up at the top here, it opens a bit of a sidebar. Newest feature in here, it just rolled out a week ago. There is a answer my question field. And so if you have a question about the budget and you want to say, how many FTEs do we have? So you can search the budget for FTEs, and it will pull up every call of FTEs in the budget and lead you through them. And so it's using AI, and it's searching through just our document to find whatever information it is that you're looking for. I used it earlier looking for something because I couldn't remember where in the book it was. And it takes a minute because it's searching the entire document, but it will show a bit of a summary as well as where you can find those pieces of information. So I think it's
Nice.
finding them in bits, and it shows you kind of a bit of a footnote, and you can then click on the link and it takes you to that space.
Hey, this is great. Where does the public find a tutorial? No, seriously.
This is it.
This is it?
This is one of those things you can play all you want, you can't break it.
I mean,
Quote David Byrne, open the window and say, how do I work this?
I'm putting some tutorial online with the budget book might be helpful.
No, this is great.
Yeah, it's really.
Down on
So
some
they're more than.
data requests, too.
I think you can go through like a left navigate.
Requests.
Does the budget have sort of, I click through something on the left to see, there's a summary, and you can drill down by department, and you can.
So depending on what you ask for.
Well, I didn't ask, I don't know where I was.
Right.
In there, I just kept clicking.
And it'll search through, so that was one of the things that I was looking for. And there's multiple, there's multiple instances of it, so it can take you to various different things. If that's not what you're looking for, click on a different link.
Okay. That looks very powerful.
Awesome.
So there we go. And the last piece of the presentation is, I know we were looking for an update on free cash. The update is, it has gone through first level of approval at DOR. It is up to the second level, so we should be seeing that in a day or two. It was advanced today. I got the message saying it was being sent to supervisor's level.
Okay.
So by next week for public hearings, we will have a free cash balance.
Perfect timing.
Great.
Just in time.
Good.
Exactly.
Great.
Thank you.
It's great. Good news all around.
Yeah.
Any
Thank you.
Any other questions? So the budget book that you just showed us, is that going to get reworked? How quickly will the updated estimates that you just showed us be reflected in this budget book, or is it already?
So the current budget that I just shared today, those, aside from the region, are updated.
Okay.
We don't have the actuals from the region. Once we do, then those will be worked in as well.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you. And you got us back on time, too.
Yep.
Amazing. All right.
Any points? All right.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Land use.
Next. So we're going to move into a set of basically the next two topics, which are the last two real topics that we have tonight, are kind of interconnected. First, we're going to hear from Sven Weber, co-chair of the Land Use Working Group, with a status on that. And then what?
I think Judith is.
Oh, it's Judith on? Great. And Sven will familiarize us with that. There's a presentation in the packet materials, and also a pretty lengthy report document that would have doubled the size of the entire packet. So we link to that for anybody who wants to take a deep dive into that. And closely related to that, because as you see, we'll be working on facilities in general. We'll then hear from Elisa and Megan around the MCI master plan procurement and the municipal planning articles. So these are pretty closely related, and we're going to dedicate most of the rest of the meeting to that. So Sven.
And awesome, and as we're doing that, are we looking, is this a decision type thing, or this is for information and feedback?
Yeah, good question.
Just asking for the context.
So the context is that the Land Use Working Group had broken their work up, and Sven's going to talk to us, into two phases. And one of them was preliminary recommendations across several work streams that they had for how we might solve some municipal facilities challenges that the community has. And the other piece around MCI master planning is what specifically are the next steps that are going to advance the MCI use. I think the questions that we're going to be working with over the next couple of meetings here are, given all of this information that's been produced by these groups and what we expect to receive in the remaining phases of the work that's already planned, how do we want to organize? We have the MCI Advisory Board, which is essentially done what they needed to do, getting us to the concepts phase, but they have a next plan. We have the Land Use Working Group, who's targeted to wrap up, and I think is actually beyond the time that was contemplated in the charge. So we're going to have to think about how this board wants that work organized going forward. I'm planning to bring a draft for a steering committee to work with MCI specifically to the March 16th meeting, which should coincide with our desire to award a master planning contract for that, and that's going to come up after this. So, but these are closely interconnected and represent an overall strategy for town facilities, and so this is an update that's going to feed our discussions about that.
Okay.
Which will start tonight.
Which are starting tonight, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, welcome.
Yeah, Sven Weber, 50 Belknap, co-chair of the Land Use Working Group, and we also have Judith Long online, also co-chair of the Land Use Working Group. I have a short presentation, and then we have time for questions. As Mark Howell pointed out, we're somewhere in the beginning of a journey. Although we are doing an interim report here of where we are on phase one, this will be a multi-year process for the town. We can only lay out the path and how it could go. There are a lot of questions that need to be resolved, and we touch on a few of them. And there are options, and it's not the land use working group that make the decisions in the end where it goes. These are the options that we give the town and the select board for consideration, and as Mark pointed out, is for future action. We worked in a very short time frame, so now I have to see. We had a charter that divided our work in two phases. Phase one is where we are now ending up here in looking at the most needed areas in town. So public works, fire, police, and what's going on with the town offices. This was the phase one. And in that phase, the first picture you saw, a puzzle. It was like starting with several boxes of different puzzles at the same time, all mixed together, and then trying to sort out where does it go. So at the moment we have the pieces sorted, as I think where we are. We get somewhere where the picture might end up, but there is a lot of work to be done, including work to have more public input here. We had over 50 meetings between the main group and the subgroup in something like 7 or 8 months. So you can just imagine and how much work was done by all the people in the group and by the town staff. And sometimes I had the feeling we overwhelmed the town a little bit with our requests. So we structured the work in this phase in 3 subgroups: the public works subgroup, the public safety subgroup, and a municipal consolidation subgroup, to really, as I said, sort the different pieces of the puzzle, generate buckets, and get and derive the interim report, which we delivered last Sunday to you. It's quite a read. Let's go and try to summarize it in a very short time period. So first group is fire and police. So we have the fire station on Main Street in West Concord, which is also the fire and then we have the fire headquarters in Walden Street, which is also the police headquarters in Walden Street. So these are the 2 buildings we have right now. And we reviewed the status of these 2 buildings and looked at different scenarios. 3 main scenarios are around the fire station West Concord, Walden Street, and the police station. And in each of these scenarios we had, is it a status quo? Can we keep it as is? Is there a renovation scenario? What are the scenarios to go new? And then the 4th section is different kind of variations of this by combining these options. And what can be done if we just cross-sect these things, like we have it right now in our current infrastructure, is already a cross-section, as we have the police headquarters and the fire headquarters co-located in one location. So this was the approach we did. We jump here right to the findings and conclusions. The Concord's public safety facility is in desperate need and high need of upgrading. And we classify this in 3 different pots. One is the fire station building in West Concord is more than challenging. We buy special trucks to fit into it. We have one person on staff who actually can park that truck into the fire station. There's like 1 inch left and right and on the top room to get that thing in and out. We had fire before on this building. It's a bit ironic to have a fire in a fire station. It's from a building perspective, it's not workable. The questions we looked at is just continue that way, or what can we do? The other thing we have to have in mind is where's the heat map for fire? The current heat map where most of the action for our fire department is already in West Concord. This is where most of their action is. We have 2 40Bs coming online. At a certain point, we have MCI coming online, so we can just assume the trend will be that there will be more and more action on West Concord. So our recommendation here is the town needs to consider to build a new fire headquarters. and I emphasize the word headquarter, in West Concord, at the current location if possible. That means acquisition of land that would be nearby. So with that downgrading the fire station here in Walden Street to a substation. So just keep that in mind if you think about that. And then look at the West Concord, the Walden Street building. We need the police station and the fire station there are cramped together. It is unclear if the building is renovatable. So our recommendation is, as one of the next steps, to get a clear sense, is it renovatable or not? We have this strong indication it's not renovatable for the needs. Even there, for example, they had already to cut on the base for the fire trucks. They had to cut into the ceiling to fit the fire trucks into it. So we are reaching at a similar end like we have on the West Concord side. But from a prioritization, we would lay out the recommendation to say focus first on a new fire headquarter in West Concord, then in parallel prepare and get a plan for either combined or two separate fire substation and police headquarter on this side. We are a little bit more flexible on the police headquarters. Police can sit anywhere, so there might be a crossover to another working group here, but we have to rethink this in how these two things work together. We recommend that the Select Board should establish a dedicated public safety facilities building committee or task force to take that on. That we get more data than we had on hand in our working group, that it can be really assessed in, can land be acquired near the current West Concord fire station, or do we need to allocate other land parcels to that solution, and to get a better understanding about renovation or new build of the Walden Street building at the moment. We looked at different opportunities where to put the different public safety entities here. In full disclosure, we looked for fire and excluded MCI Concord. We excluded 229 Main because it's far too outside. Kaiser Road, Peabody, Ripley, and Harvey Wheeler. And for the police, we excluded MCI Concord, Peabody, and Ripley. It's all in the report. And what the rationale for this is, but it's important to think later on what can be done with different properties. Let's go to municipal consolidation scope. This slide shows 14 different locations for over 130 employees, means on average there are less than 10 employees per town location. It cries already for inefficiency. I have to give the municipal consultation subgroup a lot of respect for looking at a lot of scenarios. There's a lot of detailed planning behind what can be done. Again, is there status quo? Is there renovation of the Peabody School building? Is this an option? This was one of the reasons, if you look back a year ago, why the Land Use Working Group was founded. What can be done with the Peabody building? Could it be renovated? Could it be a new building? Could be a new building at the Ripley site. Ripley is a failing building, and it's just a matter of time that what is located there, school administration, preschool, and so on, needs to move out because the building is failing. Or is there and that was an option that came during the process, is there opportunity to take advantage out of empty office space in Concord, purchase existing office building, renovate it, and move town offices in there. These were the 5 options. A lot of financial engineering in there, which you can see here in the table, read the report. I think the nutshell of the modeling was not only what does it cost us to renovate a building or what does it cost us to build new, it also modeled is what is the opportunity cost or revenue that is generated by potentially freeing up properties. So, for example, in a scenario where you look at the Peabody building, if you renovate or build on the Peabody site, that lot is not available potentially for housing, for selling it for new housing in different zoning scenarios. That was another overlay. Currently, the Peabody lot is zoned AA. What could be achieved for this if you zone it to B? You see in the report in this table that all these different variances were calculated to figure out what is the best and suitable outcome. In addition to purely the financial benefits, the group also looked at other metrics and key performance indicators here, and look at which one of the different options is a forerunner. So on the financial side, there was clearly one forerunner, and also on the other options. And that's why the recommendation of the subgroup narrowed very down to just one, which is a little bit different than the other subgroups, which gave more flexibility. Based on the work of the subgroup, it was very clear that the purchase and renovation of existing office building in town and its renovation would be extremely favorable from a financial perspective, because you're freeing up and allowing to sell other properties that you would use potentially, and would be most likely not as expensive as, let's say, renovating a Peabody building. So if you look at the different scenarios, let's go back in here, the last two ones, you see that that this ranges from a $4 million to $17 million positive balance for the town. Despite investing into a new building by buying and renovating it, the proceeds that are generated by selling lots that have become available through this just generate a lot of positive potential cash flow for the town. There's some uncertainties in that analysis, as usual, but the subgroup concluded that even if you assume some changes and more cost here for this scenario and less cost for another scenario, the gap between the different options is just too big, and there's unlikely a change that this is one of the other options could catch up in how attractive it is to go further. The next steps here definitely still need to be more information collected as usual. This was put together in a very short time frame. There must be a study to redefine the costs of renovating the respective buildings. And there must be a timeline and project behind the purchase of that potential building. This is something, buildings are not always ongoing on the market, so there is some time pressure here. And I think I personally, as me, Sven, speaking here, is in the beginning when we started, I thought municipal consolidation, this has time. We can put this a little bit on a back burner, and it will evolve over time, and we have other urgent needs. I think I learned here from my perspective, and I think several group members think the same, is that it reverted a little bit in the sense that it frees up potential capital income that would be available for the other projects. So in that sense, it's got a higher priority. The other element why it might be a higher priority is that the Ripley building is failing. The school is right now managing it, just no repair, and let's see what happens. I think we have to be prepared as town. If the Ripley building fails, it might fail big, and the sooner we have a solution in place that would cover that, the better. Public Works, the third leg of this stool, is Where to put public works? Should it stay where it is? We know for years that the current campus is not working. That's beyond its lifespan and workable span. I think last winter, the roof of our salt shed flew away, which was not very good. And that was also one of the other reasons why we were set up originally is with the MCI project, is how are all these things interconnected. If you want to put operations of that size of 7 to 9 acres somewhere, there are not a lot of lots available in town to do that. So in a certain perspective, the group had it a little bit easier because it was rather limited, but still it's a complex endeavor. And they looked at several potential sites. And you see here ranking from MCI to site Bedford Street, Ripley, 229 Main, down to just keeping it at Kaiser Road. And made again extensive analysis of the different options and which one would be best to follow. And let's go right to the general recommendation. The recommendation recommends 3 locations in general: the MCI location, 509 Bedford Street, or Ripley location if Ripley gets vacated. Preferred currently is the MCI location. It could be an add-on to the wastewater treatment facility the town is pursuing anyway. When work needs to be done to kind of figure out the minimum footprint that public works should take there. The downside is whatever you take over and above the water treatment facility eats into the developer land. And we have to be aware of that. On the flip side is if you free up Kaiser Road, that could be available for housing in a very attractive location. So we have to think about not necessarily just eating something away from housing, but if we can free up 7 acres on Kaiser Road for housing, that could be kind of a left hand or the right pocket, left pocket situation here. The 2 other locations, 509 Bedford Street is synonymous for the agricultural fields near the current wastewater treatment facility. Let's talk about that quickly. It has its own challenges. It would be completely rebuilt on MCI. Some of the buildings could be repurposed. This would be a completely rebuilt, which costs around $60 million. It's agricultural fields. Definitely, the public wants to have an input on that. If you're using it, it's currently actually zoned as residential B. So that could, the opportunity cost could also not only the cultural, but also it could be at any point in future potentially a residential development, and they're endangered species there. So it's complex and not easy, but it has the size. It is close to current operations. The 7 acres would not take the complete 21.4 acres that are available over there. Ripley challenges, it's more built into a residential neighborhood. The area is there. You could place it there. Again, it would be a tear down plus a rebuild, so you have a little bit of double cost. But these are the 3 options that were recommended, and then others were just taken off the table because they were not working. The consequence here, of course, is this needs to be integrated with the MCI negotiation efforts with DCAM. There's more work to be done to look at the minimum footprint that public work needs at MCI. There's some technical studies that need to be done depending on how deep you go within the boundary of MCI. We don't know what's in the ground there. That's one of the risks. Again, in all 3 areas, now is the time to also start thinking about community input. When we started 9 months ago, I said it was a big kind of pieces of puzzle. There was not a lot that could be communicated to the community. What you saw and see here today is what in the end was finalized last Friday. And now we're in phase 2 is one of the important things is starting to inform the stakeholders, and with continued working streams, which we highly recommend to build dedicated working groups or task forces to continue this work. In these task forces, there need to be more public input involved in here. And then we enter, as a working group, we enter in phase 2. Means is for the large and prominent properties we haven't included as a recommendation, what could be uses? Could be commercial use, could it be housing, what can be done? Are there other properties that we're falling on the sideline because they were not big enough? So what is the overall picture here of the, let's say, not used or not earmarked properties in town, and make a recommendation on the different options again. We are not a deciding body on these. We will just lay out, based on all the information, and it's a lot we got, what is the whole picture looking like. And we shoot for a final report in July 26. Thank you.
Thank you, Sven. So first, I really commend the team's work, the working group's work on presenting these options so clearly. I think it's important to, sort of re-emphasize the fact that particularly the public safety facility and the DPW, they're really not optional. None of these facilities meet our current needs. The Ripley building was built around the same time with the same techniques that the 3 elementary schools that we've already replaced, some as much as 20 years ago, were, and it is a failing building. So all of these represent huge risks that something really catastrophic could happen with them at any time. And so beginning to get our arms around what the options are and develop solutions for these that the town can then plan to achieve are useful. The municipal consolidation is an opportunity to both improve service and avoid some of these costs, and as you, I think, very appropriately point out, possibly leverage some of these assets which are otherwise not particularly useful in their current form to help pay for some of these projects. So that is why we wanted to get into this. I would encourage the public that wants to understand this better to spend some time with the report. I know there's some backup slides in here which are very useful, and there'll be more presentations about it as well as the details of the report. So this is a great piece of work, and it was done very quickly, and thanks to Judith, who I know is online, and all of you that contributed to this. Are there any questions from the board?
No, I just want to say, I'm amazed at how much work all of you did in 7 months. I didn't realize that, but people really should look at the report. There's tons of work that you all did, and it really comes through. And to synthesize it down into this presentation, you did a really nice job in the highlights. But there's still a lot of work that now needs to happen, even your phase 2, but even running with these recommendations. And I guess that's our discussion for a future time, but
Yeah.
a lot to do.
We're going to spend quite a bit more time with these recommendations. I do want to caution people that when you see, verbs like sell Peabody, that is shorthand for the the opportunity that potentially exists. It does not mean, these various choices are meant to identify distinctly different paths that are possible to go down, and the board has not, really selected any of them, but it is beginning to constrain the opportunities that are available. So people should understand that this is planning information, and it's informing a very important long-range conversation that we need to have. And so you have to be direct about what you're talking about without necessarily saying, oh yeah, that's just the direction that we're going down.
And let me also highlight, it's not all happening at once.
Not at all.
Yeah. I think being clear, and probably tomorrow at the FinCom there will be a lot of questions around how much money are we generally talking about. In a nutshell, we are talking in total about another $100 million here. Yeah, but not tomorrow. It's phased out.
Yeah.
In addition to the point is, if we are looking at the potential of, let's say, as you point out, selling Ripley, this could offset some of the costs. And this study points that out, that there are opportunities, but it comes also with potential zoning changes. This is not done overnight. So if let's take again Ripley as an example, it's right now zoned AA. This is one house on 2 acres. If you sell that, you're not achieving as much as if you zone it residential B, which is 2 houses per acre. Yeah. Then you get a higher price. It's not that dense either. Yeah, you have to make that compromise. And we got input. We got input from the neighborhood about their preferences, and definitely the preference there is not to have industrial use. Yeah.
But there's lots of different
I think
properties in which there could be some things that aren't purely residential. Right?
To build on that too.
Yes.
$100 million is what we spent just on the middle school.
Right. I know.
It's also, what the region spent on the high school, and it's what we spent on 3 elementary schools in round numbers. So these are things that over a 20-year time span, which we could easily be talking about here, are the kinds of expenses that the town can engage with if we do so in an orderly way. So that's one of the key things. And this is, as we pointed out in the projects, this is a complicated set of programs that represents a lot of what the town actually does administratively. We are understandably proud of things like what our public works team is able to do in the face of a snowstorm, and they're doing that with woefully insufficient facilities. And so we just need to, address that while we have the opportunity to address it. And then I would submit that at a time when we have 5 school buildings that are all less than, one only barely 20 years old, that's a pretty good time to engage in a conversation like this. It's never going to be easy, but it's never going to be easier.
Yeah, I just want to make a kind of personal reflection. First, a shout out to the 2 co-chairs for this whole enterprise.
Yes.
Not that you did all the work, but I mean, you kind of laid out the pathway, the templates for doing all this. Personally, this is just such a tremendous opportunity, and at the same time, a tremendous complex challenge. And we just started it.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of efforts. I don't know if the town has ever taken on such a grand enterprise, but if you look to where we might end up, I think public safety, public works, municipal operations, it would be a much better place. Which is, I think, a segue into the next presentation. The roadmap and the timeline and the capital planning here is just is really key, and we've just started to scratch the surface on that.
Yeah, can I just say a little bit more to what your point is, Paul? I think we learned a lot by doing this, and we learned what we don't know. We already are starting to we're issuing some RFPs to kind of get better numbers for the assumptions that we used for a lot of our financials. So we need to continue to learn what are some of the assumptions we made that we need better information. We also need to figure out the timing, like you said. As you mentioned, Sven, at first we thought consolidation was not that important. It was a nice nice to have, and now we're thinking it might be a cash cow to help us do some of the things that we thought were more urgent. So, I think what we did is we did some great work, but we've learned we need to do more, and that's an ongoing conversation. Before I give up the mic, though, I just want to know, I don't think the people outside of the working group really understand the condition of our public works and especially our public safety buildings. I think people drive by and they think, hey, they look pretty good to me, but they're not. And I think that's really up to the select board going forward to bring that awareness to the town and make a case similar to what the schools did when they made the case to build the middle school as far as the condition of Peabody and Sanborn. I mean, we've got a roadmap. They did a beautiful job. So we could follow that and let the town know, because we're going to have to eventually go to the town for money and zoning. So.
Just one of the things that both the beauty and the complexity of thinking about MCI and the municipal part is that we know that the state is interested in housing. Right? We have a ways to go on sort of talking to them about that, but whether that happens at MCI proper or adjacent properties or elsewhere in town, I think we can offer the state, the housing that they need, not just at MCI, but elsewhere. So the nexus of the municipal effort with the MCI effort seems pretty interesting, if not clear.
Yeah, great stuff. It's great stuff. I mean, there's lots of questions, but I mean, we don't want to be here all night asking questions, right? But just a couple of quick ones, right? Just the police and fire work. Did you do an analysis similar to like the cash analysis that we see here in the municipal consolidation around different scenarios?
No, on fire and police, we look purely at the cost side. Because
so it's the next step.
You're not if you're building on West Concord side, you're not freeing up property. The contrary, you're buying.
Right.
Yeah, and on the Walden Street campus side is. I said the question is it renovatable in the first place? Mm-hmm. If not, then you have to look at other properties. There's a property just across the street on Walden Street where there's a pump station on it that could be a place for the fire station. But you're not freeing up really a big lot that is worth millions of dollars if you're freeing up that current location. So it's not netting so much. So that's the opportunity thinking about the municipal consolidation. That frees up a lot of properties, which could generate a cash flow that could go in a capital reserve that funds at least significant parts of what is needed here.
Yep. No, yeah, that's helpful. So it's just the next step is to get into that. And then on the municipal consolidation, the building, like an office building, it does still need to, there's preschools. It's a mixed use. I mean, it is an office, but it's not just an office, I guess, right? I mean, that adds a little bit to the.
It does.
Yeah.
That's the RFP that we're.
Is
to bring it up to code for those uses.
How do we do like the preschool and outdoor recess or something, whatever it is? Okay. Yep.
Yes, you're right.
Yep.
So, did you have something?
No, I said.
So I was interested in taking, I know there's someone who may have a comment or a question about the land use working group report, so we'll take that in a minute, and then we're going to move into this report definitely generates some information needs, and we're going to begin to talk about some of the things that add to part of the solution. If I had to net it out, I would say that if we were doing this without the MCI opportunity, we would be saying we have, 3 major things we'd like to do: fix public safety, fix public works, consolidate the municipal offices, and the answer would be we don't have a place to do any of those things. The thing that MCI puts on the table is there's at least one of those that could potentially be solved by that, which is a great place to start, because once you get that first thing in motion, then that enables some other things. in the future. So there's that. And the municipal planning facilities article that we're going to touch on today and hear more about at the public hearing begins to address the specific pieces of work that bring these potential solutions into more focus, i.e. leading towards feasibility assessments of which of these things really can in fact be done, and how much would they actually cost, and when might we be able to get to them. And all of those questions still need answers. So if you have a question about, yes.
Could I, just before you move to questions, if Judith is online, I just didn't know if there was anything, I mean, I know she's done a lot of work as the co-chair, I just didn't know if there was anything she wanted to add, or just say, just as an opportunity, if there was something she wanted to.
Certainly be welcome to, and I'd be happy to recognize her. Hi, Judith.
I'm all good. Thank you very much. Sven covered everything very nicely.
Yes, you are.
Thank you,
Yes.
Pam.
Well, I just
That's
know
very
you've
kind.
been very involved and done a lot of work. I didn't want to forget the fact that you're there, and to sort of, at least then, just to thank you for the effort.
Thanks, Kim.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I'll take a public comment or question or two, and then we'll move into the MCI thing. Mark.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Tied to the other.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's wonderful to have this report from the Land Use Working Group. I'll identify myself, Mark Ailes, 62 Prescott Road. I very much appreciate the hard work and the great amount of valuable discovery and analysis work performed to date. Minuteman Media Channel lists 30, working for the channel for the working group lists 37 meetings held starting July of 25, and I attended and commented at an additional working group meeting last Friday. However, I'm concerned about lack of efforts to engage the public while it actually affects them in many major ways. The group's charge states it must engage the community, solicit public input through forums, surveys, and other methods to understand and incorporate community responses. I do not believe this responsibility has been met. I would be happy to be proven wrong, but I'm not aware of any public forum on this potentially town-changing process except the pre-committee creation public forum event held by the League of Women Voters Concord Carlisle on January 10th, 2025, entitled Peabody School and Other Development Opportunities. So this, so far, has a lot of extremely valuable discovery and analysis, but it's lacking the public lens and local knowledge and input from communities affected and people affected by service provisions and locations of those services. Although agendas and minutes are posted and there are videos, the agendas, which are what are available before the meetings for the public to know which meetings they would be important for them to attend, are lacking sufficient detail to allow them to know, which affects them. They do not list specific town properties that can be considered in general to be sold or built over. Only, it seems like only groups identified as stakeholders or people, small numbers of groups, and therefore selective input have been asked for input so far. The Ag Committee has written a letter to the group and to the Select Board describing in detail the special advantages of the Peter Springfield accessed from 509 Bedford Street. The well-draining sandy soil is almost unique in town and can be cultivated in spring by Hutchins Farm when many other fields are too wet, and it also contains a meadow which provides critical habitat for Blanding's turtles. However, the committee's reference to this as 509 Bedford Street or wastewater treatment plant does not tell the public that the field is at risk. One interesting point here procedurally is we have the unusual situation of a committee with two select board members on it, charged by the select board and advising the select board, although membership will change. It's something to kind of consider whether there's a certain amount of prejudgment taking place, whether we really have 2 layers or 3 layers of review. And finally, I just want to say that obviously selling town property nets single-time income, but what does the town need in terms of reserve for future use? I know we have, MCI Concord 29, but I think that's a serious point, needs to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Mary?
Yeah, can I respond to that? Thank you for your comment, Mark. I agree with you that we have not done the public outreach portion of the original charge, and we talked about that a little bit earlier, and part of it was because we didn't have anything to bring to the public yet. And as I mentioned, I really believe that that is really up to the select board now, starting now, to go out and do that public outreach to get, so we haven't forgotten it. We definitely think obviously it's an important part of this whole process. Decisions like that aren't going to be made here. So I hear you. We haven't done that. We will do that. We're committed to doing that. So I hope that helps. I heard you.
And
we heard you.
If you watch the video of a lot of the meetings, public outreach is mentioned lots of times. It's in the slide, but I think you're right. Now we have something to get feedback.
Put out.
Specific.
So thank you.
And just that you know, the Ag Committee is presenting at the next Land Use Working Group meeting. Yeah, and these letters received from the Land Use Working Group, from the Walden Woods and other letters, were not somewhere put to the side, but brought forward. The Walden Woods project, they had the presentation in front of the Public Works side. So just to make sure that public input was considered. We were not actively reaching this, mainly because if you look back until like even 4 weeks ago, there were a lot of moving parts on these things. And this is what Mary just said, is now we have, let's say, little bones we can throw out for people to chew on and see what they like. The options are clear. 9 months ago, these were 3 big puzzle things just mixed together.
Okay. Stefan, and then in the back.
Thank you. Stefan Bader, 7 River Street. Question and a comment. First question, I was wondering if we can get some more information on why you ruled out MCI as a potential location for the fire department or the police department. And let me get my other point out there, and then you can answer both. Thanks, Sven. And the other question is, I'm a concrete person. I like examples. And when when I read the part that said an office building, I thought, where are there office buildings big in Concord? Oh, Virginia Road, Baker Ave. I said, wait a minute. Actually, there are some downtown. There's the Welch's building. There's the insurance building next door. I think if that's what gets a 10 convenience rating is something that's literally steps away from this building, I think we kind of have to say that. I know you don't want to say which one you're negotiating with or might be negotiating with, but I think I think other people will think like me, you're talking Virginia Road because we know there are big office buildings out there that are not filled. Thank you.
So first question on why not MCI for fire or police. So I think fire had a major concern about what's going on the reconfiguration of the rotary and access and speed where to get to. Is how it's even now configured. It's very, very difficult to place something in there. And the current location is actually quite good in West Concord. They like it. The size is not a match. Yeah? So that's one of the things that need to be looked at and decided. And that would be a property acquisition that is outside of what the land use working group is doing. For what kind of office building, it's I think what was discussed is a central located office, which is accessible both from west and this side of the Concord. But again, it might fall away, yeah? So that's one of the things you all have to be aware of. Sometimes opportunities come and then they go. and it has to be a clear understanding what's the plan B. Is it waiting for a similar kind of building that is accessible and not in a certain corner of the town? One of the more negative ratings of Peabody was it was just tucked away somewhere. Yeah, and people want to have for town functions something that is more central for everyone. So that's my question, answers to the two questions here.
Okay, thank you. Please approach.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Salt, 123 Peter Spring Road, which is right behind the Bedford Street property that we're talking about here, right behind 509 Bedford Street. So I have 3 short comments, 2 which are very specific and 1 that's much broader. The specific ones, 509 Bedford Street, yes, agricultural use and endangered species, but so much more. The Reformatory Branch Trail goes right through there. It's now on all the Concord maps. People come from Cambridge, Boston, further afield, other countries, to visit Concord. They come to Walden Pond, but they come to go through places like that field, which is unique and beautiful in this landscape and in this place. And we have a responsibility, not only as custodians of our own town, but as custodians of a historical town, a tourist town, a town to which other people come for solace and enjoyment and an experience of history. It's also a very historical area. If you're familiar with the Robbins House that has just been put up, it's related to that family and to the Hutchins family. It's also related to Native American history. As you well know, it's part of the Revolutionary reenactment. This is a small Concord gem. So it is, yes, agricultural land, and yes, endangered species, but it is so much more. And that needs to be taken into consideration. It is also this contrast set up between it and Ripley as, quote, the residential area, and it not as a residential area. I don't know where that's coming from. I mean, they're 50-50 on that. So those are some of the specific things. And then the bigger, broader question is packages put before towns are a sly way of doing things sometimes. So I'm hoping that when all this reaches town meeting, this is a big package. So I could go to town meeting, I'd be like, I am with you. Rebuild the police station, rebuild the fire station, please get rid of these crumbling buildings, sell your properties. So the what and the why I could be voting for, but if you've just tucked the where under there, it just gets swept in. So I'm asking that the where be put, when it comes to town meeting, the where is separate and we can vote on that separately, because I would easily vote for all these things to be done, but I might have differences about the where, and I suspect many other citizens will too, perhaps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to take one more from online. Tanya?
I can't. Okay, thank you. Here. Yeah, sometimes I can turn. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm going to, since Mark spoke, I wasn't necessarily going to speak, but I will, and I will speak in a more broad brush way. Yes, the committee worked very hard, but that hard work should not have happened without initial public input and awareness of what was being discussed. When I look at some of the agendas of the subgroups, one says, review space requirements spreadsheet. Another says, review option, pro and con chart. These are not informative, specific agendas. These are open meeting law issues, actually. Agendas should be more specific. Now we're finding about things in our neighborhood, things in other neighborhoods, and also the whole, frankly, the whole project seems more like how can we raise more money for the town than what is the best use of our land. There isn't enough consideration for like what the previous speakers said about neighborhoods and their assets and what they enjoy or what it means to the public. It is not enough to reach out to stakeholders like the agriculture committee. In public matters, the public is the stakeholder, and we forget this so often. The 2030 Envision Concord, by the way, is a guideline. It doesn't mandate anything, which doesn't mean the public works may not need improvement or relocation or whatever, but just let's not refer to it as a mandate of any kind. I was there when they worked on that document, and it was very clear that it was all about guidelines. It's just, and also comments that apparently committee members have made, like we can't please everybody. Well, you have to step on somebody's toes. Yeah, well, more reason to start talking to the public from the beginning. Like, look at what happened at Warner's Pond. Warner's Pond, probably environmentally, the wiser thing to do would be to remove the dam, but it stayed just simply because the neighborhood wanted it. So what neighborhoods want count, and they should continue to count. And what about selling the Harvey Wheeler? What about the old people who are used to going there for their service? The fact that we didn't know about what was exactly being considered from the get-go is of huge concern. And I just wanted to make this broad brush statement about, yes, you worked very hard, but it was sort of predetermined work. And that is very upsetting to me. But thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to move into a discussion about next steps. I think that I want to reassure people, though, that what we've attempted to do here in setting up the land use working group, which got pretty extensive discussion at this board table as we put together the charge, was to discover what the opportunities were at a moment in time when we saw that MCI was an opportunity, when we saw that 2229 Main Street was going to become available, and we had, at least in the background, it's been out since the 2018 facilities study, and that these buildings are failing. If we don't do something about public works, if we don't do something about public safety, we are going to have, a roof collapse or something along those lines in some of these buildings. That is not out of the realm of possibility, and it would be irresponsible for us as the town's executive board not to be trying to figure out how to address these failing buildings. And they're big enough problems that we charge the land use working group to look at as a possible part of the solution every piece of town-owned land. And that was in the charge, and they have done that in a relatively short period of time, brought that information together into a place where now that public process and that input can and will take place before decisions are made, before significant resources are committed. What we're going to be talking about next, though, is resources that are on the fraction of less than 1% of the value of these capital assets to advance our understanding more about what is the right thing to do here. So with that, we're going to take a dive into the MCI master planning, and Megan's going to lead us through this, and the facilities master plan. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. Thank you very much. That is a tough act to follow because it was a thorough conversation, and we've been at this for a while. So,
yeah.
And I will say the slides in the packet were put together before Sven's presentation and the land use working group presentation. So some of them may be a little redundant, and we don't need to go through every one. But I think some of the questions that were raised just in the presentation before were, some of the thoughts were, we've identified some questions that need to be resolve to inform future options. And so how are we going to do that? And so that's what we're going to be discussing a little bit today. So as I mentioned, there has been, we've been talking a lot today about how we're at the beginning of a journey and there's a lot more to do, but I want to recognize that there has been some work done, to date.
What's wrong?
We're at the end of the beginning. Right?
Like, we need a timeline, maybe.
We're not at the beginning.
That's a great idea.
It's the end of the beginning.
But as Mark just mentioned, we did have a TBA architect's report done. Sometimes it's called the 2020 report. Sometimes it's 2018. It did come out right before COVID, and it did take a very thorough look at all buildings, all municipal buildings across the town. And it did, although it was, 5 or 6 years ago, that's not very long ago in municipal terms, and the data is still very good and useful, and it was used by the Land Use Working Group to inform the work that they have done over the past several months. We've also done some work with our departments to kind of update that and to talk about facility deficiencies. A lot of those have been discussed this evening. So then, of course, the strategic review, the select board has appointed the Land Use Working Group to evaluate the sites and recommendations. And this evening, we're going to talk a little bit about the request for resources to advance feasibility analysis and talk about master planning. So when we're talking about master planning, there are some kind of standard steps to this process that I just listed here that go from existing conditions and inventory all the way to construction documents. Just listed this here for reference. And this slide here, I want to spend a couple minutes on, and there's a couple, different ways to view it, and it's evolving. This might not be at the hearing on the 10th, but what we're looking at here are the steps on the left of the different phases of master planning, and then looking across public works, public safety, municipal consolidation, and then potential, I should add potential in here, disposition of surplus property or consideration of. And the blue squares kind of show the foundation that's been done, but recognizing that additional work will be required for technical validation and integration. Yellow is there's some projects actively underway. Orange is some future phases. And so if we run through public works, we've talked a lot tonight about the existing conditions and inventory. We are talking about the needs assessment and programming. This project is, or this kind of need in the town is on a different track as the subcommittee is recommending MCI. So there's some other resources and some other efforts looking at that property, and now we're going to be folding in the master planning. How would public works fit here? What would that look like in circulation and layout and things like that? So there are some efforts underway. There's a needs assessment that is being done that's being managed by our facilities division, and then site feasibility and test fits, and I also marked policy alignment and government actions. Like, this is being worked out through the master planning process, and that is we're going to be working to select a consultant in the next couple weeks. So then when we're looking at public safety, police and fire, as I said, there's been work done on existing conditions, looking at the needs and programming and the strategic option development. That's, the recommendations that have been done. And then there's a number of things that need to continue in future phases, like the finance modeling and phasing, policy alignment, government actions, et cetera.
Megan, when you refer to master planning, just for clarification, you're talking about MCI master planning, not master planning for everything we're talking about.
Good point. I probably am not being specific enough. I am talking about both. When I was talking about the Concord, the public works column, I am talking about the MCI master planning that we have we're evaluating proposals currently for a firm, and we'll be working on that specific campus master plan. But we are also looking at, a broader master plan, a roadmap for how are we going to be phasing and kind of answering these final questions and talking about next steps so that we can get to a point with public input, to have some projects at some point. It's kind of taking the recommendations, fleshing them out, answering questions, having community conversation, so that when there is an opportunity to, build a building, we're ready for that. So then I was talking about municipal consolidation. Similar to the others, there's been a lot of work done in the first 3 categories. They've also done a lot of work in financial modeling and policy alignment and government actions. And then when we're looking at potential disposition of surplus property, I have a couple cells as yellow, and we've talked a little bit about the scopes that are underway, and I want to mention those this evening. We have 2 that we're working on. One is, I keep saying it needs a better name, but it's a development yield analysis, and that is we're going to be working with a consultant to look at 4 different parcels to understand the value of the land under the current zoning and under an alternative zoning model. And we're thinking about if they were to be, to understand how many housing units could be possible at those sites under both zoning scenarios. And this is really just to kind of check in on the numbers that have been worked on by the committee, and to be able to have a conversation about, how are we, informing phase 2, frankly, how are we meeting our housing production goals? How could we, what could be possible on these sites? Because there are a lot of, constraints that need to be looked at a little bit more detail. Some have some wetlands on them. Some sites, already have structures. So it's not going to be a very technical, detailed analysis, but it is going to help kind of vet the work that we've done and give us some information so that the community can decide and discuss and deliberate on what land uses they'd be interested in the future. So that's one of them.
And then Megan, just for the public interest, what are the 4 locations?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Right. The 4 locations we're studying in the study are the Peabody School, Ripley School Building, the Keyes Road campus, and the Church Street campus. Thank you.
Can I just ask, though, isn't it more than just number of housing units? I mean, we might have some goals on housing units, but we also have goals on
value,
financial and business, tax revenue, all those. I don't want to exclude just, I guess, an analysis says, hey, we can build this many houses. Yes, we could also maybe generate this much revenue, or
well, remember, housing generates tax revenue as well.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's another, just another lens to make sure we also, it's an and, it's not instead of, but it's just an and around.
Yeah, I think
to think about
2
that.
of the 4 sites are in more commercial districts in which
we should understand, hey, those lend themselves, these ones are more likely to have some commercial aspects to it, which could sort of look, again, bigger than a bread box kind of sizing type of thing.
Yeah, when I think about this, I often also think about the fact that, as we've noted numerous times this evening, land is hard to come by in Concord. Once anyone disposes of it, there's little likelihood they're going to get it back. 2 of the sites that are on this list are, used to be schools, elementary schools to be specific. And if we ever had if we projected out far enough and ever had a community need for another school site, a 4th elementary school or something like that, these would have to be considered as possible solutions for that. So in much the same way, and I go back to the process we went through as we were making decisions about how to go about building our schools. We had, at each of the 5 projects that we did, we had an opportunity to decide whether we wanted to move forward or whether we wanted to make that project conform with the Massachusetts School Building Association Assistance Program funding. And in some cases, we decided that we would go with that program and therefore reap some savings. And in other cases, we made the decision that no, for reasons that the community supported at town meeting and at the ballot box, we were going to go ahead and, quite frankly, spend more money because we saw the need. And we're going to have similar decisions to make about each one of these properties over time. Is it better to keep it? Is it better to do something with it? And those decisions, to the point that I think is broadly being made by a number of people, come up whenever you think about any piece of property anywhere in town that's owned by the town or contemplated by the town. You have to think about, is it better off in its condition as it is? Is there some other future use that the town needs to potentially consider? Or, is it truly something that, because once it passes from the control of the town, it's unlikely to ever come back.
Mm-hmm. But Cameron, to your point, there are at least 2 of the 4 properties that if they're doing something with it, doesn't necessarily preclude things other than housing.
Yeah.
Yeah, or mixed use or something.
Yeah, or mixed use.
Yes.
Yep.
Actually, I think the Harvey Wheeler campus is zoned now for mixed use. It's already, so that would, we'd avoid a zoning change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What's its existing zoning, and is there a more advantageous zoning is really the general question that's being asked by, okay, Megan.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, the other scope that we're working on is a scope to look at the Peabody School and a commercial office property under consideration to see what it would cost to bring those buildings up to code for a program of uses that has been developed by the Municipal Consolidation Subcommittee, informed by interactions with town staff, previous studies, et cetera. So that one is evolving. Paul and I had a meeting today that I think is going to help bring that over to the finish line to make sure we're really asking for. This study has been kind of discussed at length with the subcommittee, and what we're working on today is what we're asking for really going to give us what we're looking for, and so I think we made some good progress there. And those 2 studies are planned to be funded by ARPA funds, which those funds need to be spent by the end of December. So that those, as we're looking at the questions that we need to answer going forward for the community to make their informed decisions and kind of weigh these options, that information will be collected through the ARPA funds. So. Okay, this is a little bit redundant, but I have 3 slides here, 3 or 4, on some of the efforts that have been happening so far, and some of the things that have not yet been initiated. As I mentioned, the Concord Public Works, there are master planning work on the MCI campus that are going to be looking at, kind of circulation, layout. So that is going to be incorporated in that effort. But there are still a number of things that haven't been looked at yet. For public safety, police and fire, we've of course looked at deficiencies documented and done some initial assessments. And there's the recommendation that you already heard, so I won't rehash that. And then with municipal consolidation, you kind of heard in detail about the work that group has been doing. And I think there's some bullets that probably need to be moved up because, as we've mentioned, the financial modeling has been really looked at, space planning as well. And some of the zoning implications are also about to be looked at through this scope.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Not much more to say here. So I mentioned some of the projects that are underway, and I mentioned the ARPA funds. I want to mention ARPA, we did assign or kind of earmark $100,000 for MCI in the original ARPA contract. So that is going to be going towards the MCI master plan. We also have some, I don't know if it's easier to go across or down, but I think maybe I'll go across. Also for Public Works, the MCI master plan is going to be partially funded by a legislative earmark from FY26. and third was the free cash article. So this is not all going to Concord Public Works. It is all going towards the effort of MCI master planning, but I put it in that column because they will be also considering Public Works as part of that master plan. There's also an older 2014 annual town meeting article that had some funds set aside for feasibility. And so there's a $25,000 study that's being worked on for space planning and looking at some of the buildings on the campus. And so that is underway.
So, Megan?
Yeah.
If I understand it, the purpose of this presentation, thank you. The purpose of this presentation is to help us understand how much money we are going to ask the town to approve at the annual town meeting in Article 12. Is that accurate? Is that why we're, is that?
To tee up.
Well,
But it isn't.
Okay.
We don't have the
But you don't have a number?
Right.
Okay. Okay, so what do you want from us tonight, I guess? I mean, this is good information, but what are you hoping to get from us tonight?
I think that tonight was really information, kind of reporting back the work that has been done.
Okay.
And in preparation for the March 10th Finance Committee hearing, I wouldn't want, that meeting where, likely a board member is presenting is to be the first time the board has kind of heard and discussed and mulled over the fact that there is going to be a request from the select board at town meeting for a sum of money to get from recommendation to kind of roadmap master planning for these programs.
Okay, so the deadline is what, March 12th, the hearing?
The hearing's on the 10th.
The 10th, okay, and who's going to present this? I'm getting really...
Me.
Okay, you. Can I make some suggestions? Sure. Okay. Remember, this is a really important step because it's really the first time that the community is really going to hear what we're thinking of doing and what the first appropriation of cash that we need to get this off the ground. Or it's off the ground, but keep the momentum going. So I would recommend that you, we used words before that I remember were things like urgent and failure, and what were some other words? And a sense of urgency with the town, which we're trying to. I said that's up to the select board, but here's our chance to bring that home, or at least start that messaging to the community, and this is our chance. So, or this is our first chance, right? So, this is very procedural, and it shows the steps, and we're being very careful, and we're going through the right process. But we need to hit that other thing, which you said so well just a few minutes ago, which is the work we have ahead of us, that it's urgent, that we're in failure mode, and that's what we're trying to do here. So that's my suggestion as far as how to change the pitch, the tone.
I agree. I think you have to balance the urgency with, this is a long-term ask.
Right.
This isn't money can be spent, this isn't the ARPA money. This is to lay out the roadmap for the planning, for the capital planning, for the timeline.
And some of this analysis.
So this is, yes, you have to get it started, but this is a long-term effort. That's a start.
I have one more suggestion. It says, the very last slide says 10 to 20-year roadmap. That, to me, is just way too long. I think if we're serious that we're in failure mode and we've got some serious, we're at risk, we need to think more quickly than that. Remember, we built a middle school in less than 6 years from the date that the town approved the feasibility study until we moved students and teachers into that building. That was 6 years. And so I think a sense of urgency and momentum would be helpful. That's my...
I think we have to differentiate the planning from the execution. The execution may take much longer. So we have to establish this planning.
I'm fine with that, but it's got a 10 to 20-year roadmap.
This funding is around the plan.
Yeah, this funding, the planning has to...
Yeah, but it says here it's 10 to 20 years.
I get it.
I mean, we're talking...
Not the execution.
The roadmap is to get all of these things done. You know, when the
It's gonna be a
school,
long, I mean, there's a
when the
lot.
school committee presented the master plan for the schools, which started with do the middle school first, if we
Right.
remember
So they took
back.
like 25 years to do
They
it.
took, it took 20 years to get that done, because there was 5 buildings, and, you know, something on the order of $300 million, which is a significant investment. And so, and unfortunately, we already owned every piece of property that was involved in that solution when that was proposed in 2002. We already owned all the properties that were needed to solve that problem. In this case, at least 2 of these things don't have, don't have even an identified property solution. And the third one is one that we at best are engaged in planning and negotiating over. So we have a significantly more challenging real estate problem at the town level that is much more complicated. So I appreciate the urgency of it. And it's one of those things where if you don't start the journey at all, you're never getting going. But, you know, I just don't want to, I'm not willing to set up a false set of expectation that somehow or another we're going to have.
I mean, the reality is
parking.
But Mary's, you know what, Mary's point is really well taken. This is going to
a good
be
point.
the very first public time we're going to hear
Right.
this.
That's fair.
We have to light the,
Right.
There is a fire.
Yes.
yes, there is a fire.
We want to, well, but I think the other thing that's important, if I understand it correctly, is we're going to ask for some money for MCI and for...
No, we're not. This other money we already have, so this is...
Well, but we talked...
We're going to...
It says
Let me let Megan-
250,000 here.
Yeah, I think my messages weren't coming across very clearly. I was trying to show that we have already invested, and we already have some funding to answer some of the questions, but we are going to need more. So we're not asking for MCI funds specifically. We did last year, and we have those, and we're spending them on the master plan. We're going to be asking for an amount of money that's still being worked on.
Okay, so we're going to...
general planning across all those disciplines.
Okay, but I think it's still important to, because some, you know, well, hey, we've been doing all this, you're asking for this money, you got asking for this money last year, now you ask for this money, but we have to do this planning at the same time.
Yes.
I mean, it's just important to sort of connect the dots of like you can't sort of like, why don't we not do this and then just do MCI? It's like, well, okay, wait, that doesn't really work.
Doesn't really solve it.
So
and
it's just
up until now, we have we asked last year for funding for MCI, but what we need to do is we need to also, and we have, as Megan pointed us to, in the past, done some small studies about the facilities and funded those. Now we need a bigger chunk of planning in order to bring these things together. MCI is part of the solution of this larger problem, and that larger problem has not ever been actually funded, and that's what Article 12 is about. That's why it's called municipal planning.
Right. But let me cycle back to Barry's original comment. I think the 20-year horizon, maybe for completion of the entire project, is reasonable. But we're asking for money. That's upfront planning. And that planning needs to get done much sooner than 20 years. That money has to be spent has to be spent within, I don't know, 5 years.
In working with staff, what I have suggested is that, and we can talk about whether this is right, but I think that what we're asking for under Article 12 gets expended for planning purposes within 12 to 18 months. What we have is we have some fairly significant resources. We got some money from the state that we need to spend by June 30th. We have some ARPA funds that expire by the end of December. And then we have the $250,000 that town meeting appropriated last year, which doesn't really have an expiration date on it. But that's it. So you can easily envision that by June of 2027, we've kind of expended everything that we've put towards this already, and so we need another tranche of planning money. And that's why, if these facilities are $100 million worth of facilities or $150 million worth of facilities, we're asking for well under 1% of that capital, that capital asset to even just talk about the plans. It's nowhere near going to actually solve the problems. It's just going to get us the information that we know to know what we're targeting here.
And the timing is really limited by our ability to plan.
Right.
You know, and who's going to do that and play. So, but as aggressive as possible.
Yes.
I think we need to kind of compress that.
Well,
So that's-
it's aggressive as possible, but again, it almost has to be done to connect with some things that might get the hand might get start to forced on MCI, right?
Yeah, and, you know.
And also the need for
to-
a capital plan for all this.
Right,
You know,
we do
we
need
talked
to-
about, we need
And
to
the
start
timing
doing
and the
that
sequence,
and get
absolutely.
that done.
As Sven was pointing out, you know, let's say the office building to be named later option, you know, that, something like that could come up, because that by its very nature could be a commercial purchase opportunity. And if we decide, or, you know, land on which, you know, in West Concord on which to develop a public safety building could become a commercial you know, purchase opportunity on the town. We need to, A, understand what kinds of properties, which properties in town might meet our criteria for that, and then what is the budget for those kinds of things. And once we have that, then we know what we're shopping for.
That's right.
And so this planning is designed to get us that information, so when an opportunity does present itself, we're actually ready to act on it.
Well, Carrie, you pointed out this morning to me about the stabilization funds, and so.
Right.
So we've got that.
Well, that's another piece of it, is having those longer-term resources.
Yeah, I mean, so the trick is, we have certain opportunities that are very limited to bring items before the community. These are things that need to be voted when they're ready to be acted upon at town meeting, expenditure of or appropriation of funds and acquisition of real estate are town meeting actions. And so, you know, we're, as everybody is saying, we're trying to tee this up to be ready for annual town meeting next year, or a special town meeting prior to, if we're ready, and not before. And it's a delicate balance of having enough information and the public process and bringing it together for town meeting, and that's what we're trying to put together.
All right, I know we're running a little over
So
on
to be
this.
clear, so do you have what you need for this warrant article? We're saying it's planning, it's probably for the next 2 years,
Yep.
cover activities over the next few years. And
12
the
to 18
amount?
months.
Well, we're going to talk about this again next week.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we are going to have numbers
Good.
Okay.
plugged
all right,
in.
Great.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah,
This is on for
and I
next-
mean, that initial matrix that Megan was talking about, which showed what's had some work applied to it and which things are empty gaps, those are the, you know, trying to understand which ones of those boxes and how much needs to be applied to those is really how we're getting into that number, trying to be realistic, so not asking for some, you know, huge number that's going to be difficult, but really having a realistic look at what kinds of things can be advanced in the time frame we're talking
Good.
about.
Good.
So I know Elise is on, and we wanted to briefly talk about where we are in master planning for MCI.
Yep.
And I know, Lisa, do you want to talk to that, or do you want?
Yeah, sure. I can give a brief update on that. So the RFP for the MCI Concord Master Plan and Rezoning Project, that was issued and posted last month. And the deadline for the proposals was last Thursday, February 19th. And we received 2 comprehensive proposals for review for the project by the deadline. The RFP review panel has been meeting and is in the process of reviewing the proposals and rating them according to the evaluation criteria that were set forth in the RFP. We're conducting reference checks and scheduling interviews with the 2 teams, and they were both selected to proceed to the interview stage. So if all goes on track, we hope to select a preferred consultant in the next couple of weeks and complete contracting with a consultant in March. So this gives us a kickoff date for the project in early April. So far we're on track with this. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Mark.
So this.
But it seems to be, going according to schedule.
Yeah, so this is a process that's focused on building on the work that happened last year that got us to the vision and concept, but it's specifically designed to come up with a zoning proposal that can go to town meeting, as well as particularly a traffic and circulation proposal, something that represents a general agreement between what the town wants and ideally what DCAM is also interested in putting out to bid. Key to this, I think, is working through this in coming to an agreement with DCAM about how much of this property might be part of a public works allocation, assuming that we're working on that, which is one of the reasons why you can sort of see it in the land use update. The public works proposal has been pushed a little bit ahead of the others because it has this potential solution. And having toured the MCI property several times now, there are pieces of that property that are very compatible with public works mission, and that's an opportunity that we really sort of can't afford to miss.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So one of the things we were also going to talk about tonight is what kind of citizen involvement or committee or steering committee or working group we need going forward, and it's late.
Yeah.
I think we should, and this is an important thing to talk about, I wonder if we could put it on a future agenda earlier in the night so that...
I thought, Mark, you said March 16th.
March
Is that
16th.
right?
March 16th,
Yeah,
still,
and-
yeah.
Can we have it early
Yeah.
Not at the end.
in the meeting?
March 16th is going to be an interesting meeting. We're going to hear about a lot of things, but yes.
But, okay, and that will be also not just the MCI, because I know you mentioned that, but also something that you have in mind for the land use.
Right. I think that, this discussion is really teeing up the fact that we have these opportunities around municipal facilities, and it's going to be necessary for us to figure out a way to gradually converge those into a set of projects which are kind of ordered, and what that means for the community, what it means for capital planning.
Yep. Good.
And where the opportunities are. And I think that we have done well so far by tasking certain groups to take the lead for certain concrete pieces of work. But I think that if this discussion proves nothing else, there's a lot of moving parts here. And I'm going to just say it, I think that this board is going to have to remain very much involved in the overall development of the roadmap, even as it doles out pieces of technical work like planning for a public safety facility, or identifying a specific parcel for municipal consolidation. Those kinds of things may be able to be done either by staff or by small committees, and we're going to have a discussion about what's the best way to organize that. We already experienced a good piece of last year where we had the MCI advisory group running at the same time as the land use working group, and we know that there was some crossover and some confusion about who was doing what in those things, and I think we need to try to think about ways to do that. I have some suggestions, and I'm planning to bring them for the 16th.
Great.
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
So do we have any liaison reports that we want to touch on?
I don't have a liaison report, but I actually wanted to just, when I was at the Chairs Committee, when I chaired it for you last week, there was a lot of people recognizing they have vacancies on their boards, and I want to volunteer to try to organize some kind of event for the public that can come in and just ask questions about being a volunteer and give us an opportunity to promote some of the openings on the committees. And maybe we can couple it with some other public events, but I sort of feel like there's a real need out there for committees, people looking for, and maybe I can outreach to one.
What about at the town meeting?
Well, I actually was thinking at, town meeting's late, right? Because the committee should have already picked their committees and they've turned over already.
This isn't the.
I already had that comment from mine.
You brought this
But you know
up
what?
too?
It's
Like
too,
minds think alike.
Wow, okay.
but, so you know what? Maybe I'll bring it back.
Yeah, I'm all for, it's great. The more we can do that,
So maybe
better.
can find a time and a place.
Right.
Can I ask 2 quick questions on committee reports? Paul, Bias and Hate, it said you conducted 2 focus groups.
Yeah, we're doing a third one.
Who are they, who's in the focus groups?
So one of our committee members volunteered to run that, and we're inviting the public. It was advertised on the webpage. We're trying to get the word out. We're trying to bring in people to have input into
So it's,
how they see this.
you've tried to
It's
put it
really
out to
focus group.
everybody in town?
Yeah, and
Whoever-
and we're
And
doing
there's
another one. I'm
notices
trying to reach
to-
other
yeah.
demographics. It's hard, yes, we're trying to,
And you're going to do another one, did you say?
there's another one Sunday.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And then Wendy, a quick question on the tax relief. It said you're putting together a report. Do you know when?
Well, there are supposed to,
Approximately when?
so the charge says it'll be done at the end of March, and I actually just asked Mark if we could put a placeholder for April 16th to have a report. Committee has not committed to that yet, however, just saying.
Yeah,
But
but
they're making great
That's what you're working
progress.
towards.
There's
Got it.
just a placeholder.
No, I just didn't know.
Yeah, no, they're doing a lot of great work, so.
Be nice to have that
Thank you.
before town meeting.
I have a couple little things on the incident reporting group. We're going to need more, the original charge had us December 31st, and we're going to need probably till May 1st. So, and what we said in the charge, we would ask the select board for that. So I don't know the mechanism for doing that, but we're going to need till May 1st to finish that work. We were well along in the work. I don't want to go into detail, but we need an extension.
So I would entertain some, if people are okay with just a date change on that charge, then we could put that on a consent agenda
Yeah, put it on a
item.
consent agenda. Yeah.
You know, and if,
Don't cut, I mean, give yourself an extra month or two. I mean, don't, if you're going to ask for it, just.
so if you're comfortable, I didn't want to just do that, but if people are, if that's the only thing we're touching for, just to administratively handle
Yeah,
that.
you should.
Okay. All right, so propose a date and.
Yeah, okay, just want to mention a couple other things. So I've talked a lot about the road safety prioritization planning, and that's really well along. I think Alan Cathcart has been leading that with Public Works and with TAC and with the TMG. Stantec has developed a ranking tool for all the existing projects, and it's not a prioritization, it's ranking based on engineering criteria. They presented that to the TAC. The TAC now, their charge is to kind of get the public input into how to prioritize those projects. So that whole, and I put a little graphic in here, that whole thing is well along, and I think there's going to be briefings of the select board to be determined, but that's well along, and it's, I mean, Alan and Steve Dukran and others in Public Works have done a lot to bring that along. So that's one thing. I think that maybe it. Oh, yes, the Warners Pond Management Committee had their first meeting.
Yeah.
So that's moving.
Good.
Good.
So the formation of that is behind us, and now the execution is underway.
Okay,
Okay?
we'll look forward to that.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry about that.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah.